You want to know about the Gambia entertainment industry. You want to know the existing policies and programs of the arts and culture sector. You want to know about the governance and management of the arts associations. The program will throw a fresh light on the entertainment industry in focus. We will touch so many angles about the cultural sector, the opportunities and challenges, and interrogate them, and most importantly, offer solutions.
Supersonics money transfer wolle kudima na falia kabosain kata October karo bandula ha kabosain kata October karo bandula ibeganyo rokela mani botolal wato wati nitata kodota Gambia banko kanjan membota na UK, Europe, USA, Canada wala fo Switzerland ni atambini Supersonics money transfer ha barin diata kabosain kata October karo bandula wato wati nitata kodota Gambia banko kanjan membota na UK, Europe, USA, Canada wala fo Switzerland alon ko ni mani boto be sela suwo konol nko mani boto keme dronne bijede wote bamban sain fo daka se ni mo kemol kono men be gagné rokela nyum kudi mala kabosain kata October karo bandula anin Supersonics money transfer dorong ibe ñu sotola wol inyo sewondi ñu ku koyola men tariata ala no warta dum bata da clinteje ko di tala karola katu yalo ne ko ñun len ko di ta dulatu men warta Gambia banko be kanja woto ni ko do taje wato wati hani fadino ita jola je tan na Google Play Store wala na Apple Store bi ye Supersonics money transfer app download ye ni sewondi ani ñin ko di ta dula ani Supersonics ñin kudi ma be sotola woto dronne.
Hello and welcome to the Showbiz in Focus. I am your host and presenter Khalilu Banja, and tonight we are expecting two distinguished guests. With me here tonight, first is Nasiru Deen, a lawyer of the Toronto Chambers. He will be joining us to speak about the Copyright Act of the Gambia and also the draft IP Act, which is on the verge of amendment in the parliament. We are expecting also the director of Performing Fine Arts and Literature, Mr. Sheikh Omar Jallow. We cannot hold him at the moment, but he will join us later in the program, probably. Mr. Deen, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right, I just want you to tell my viewers something about you. Who are you, what you do, and what makes you to involved in the copyright issue and all that. Yeah.
Yes. Right now a people legal practitioner at Toronto Chambers. I was called to the bar November 2019, and I'm now doing my traineeship at Toronto Chambers. I got into the copyright arena during my last year at university. I graduated from the University of the Gambia. So in my final year, I wanted to write a paper, dissertation, do research. So I had come across papers written by Hassoum Cisse, who was at the time, I think, director of copyrights. He talked about copyrights in the Gambia. It was a very short article, but I really enjoyed it and I wanted to look further into it. So I spoke to him and I told him that I wanted to look into the legal aspect of it, look into some of the legal ramifications, and just delve deeper into the article he had written. So that's what I did in my final year. The dissertation was out.
So basically,
yes. Go ahead.
So basically, it was a thesis. It was your final thesis that you did a research on copyright.
Exactly. It was a final thesis, and I submitted that thesis to the Law Review Journal of the university, and it was published. So Mr. Hassoum got to read the article, and he was very pleased with it. And I also had the chance to be involved in some workshop trainings with some police officers that were involved in IP and copyright protection. Also, I was involved in a training with some content creators, some copyright creators. I think the Writers Association. There's another association I think that has to do with performers. There was a workshop for them that I also attended, and I was able to train them on some of the findings in my research. So that's how I got into the copyright arena. It was through my final year research.
Okay, so basically in 2018, which was not long, in May, so you did this research. What were the areas that you were looking into with regards to copyright and also infringement? Because the title of the document was Copyright Infringement and How It Affects the Gambian Music Industry. So that is very interesting for us. What were the areas that you were looking into?
I looked into several areas. First is the legal area. First, I wanted to find out whether if laws exist to protect against copyright. Because if laws exist, why are these copyright infringements so rampant? Because when I read Hassan's article, he made the case that for piracy, copyright infringement like piracy, illegal copying, and even the failure to pay royalties, performance royalties to artists was very rampant. So first,
Okay.
I want to look at whether laws exist, and my findings were laws do exist. I mean, there was a Copyright Act of 2004. Before that, obviously, there was no copyright protection mechanism or protection laws. So, but after that, the 2004, after it came into effect, the problem was it wasn't being implemented effectively. For example, for the collection of royalties, the Copyright Act of 2004 establishes a collecting society, and this collecting society is supposed to collect performance royalties for copyright or copyright owners or copyright authors, like even writers, music performers, and all of that. But that society wasn't even established until 2013. So between 2004, when the Act came into force, and 2013, there was no collecting society. And when it even did come into force, there were problems with resources and the implementation. They were not able to carry out their function. So even till now, I don't think the collecting society collects any royalties for artists or even copyright holders. So,
Yeah,
so this was my research looked into.
okay, so that was very important that you highlighted that area because we had an argument over that issue that the act allows the National Center for Arts and Culture to establish what you call the Collecting Society of the Gambia. And when the Collecting Society of the Gambia was established in 2013 up to 2020, as we are speaking now, it is not like working, it's not operational. They are not collecting royalties. And then before also, there was no copyright regulations. They came into being in 2019. What can you say about that? Like having the act mentioned the Collecting Society of the Gambia, but there was no regulation to be able to carry out the works of the Collecting Society. What can you tell us? How can you break that down?
Well, I'm not very familiar with the regulations that came into place. In fact, the regulations came after my research was done. Because my research was done in 2018, and the regulations, like you said, came in 2019. So I'm not very familiar with that. But it just shows that there's a long gap between 2004 and 2019. And again, like my research showed, the laws are there, but the implementation takes funds, it takes resources, it takes even the will of the agencies to implement some of these things. So you could have the laws in place, you can have the regulations in place, but if the financial backing isn't there to carry out these regulations, then it won't be effective. And I think the copyright authors themselves, the artists and the performers themselves, have to take hold of the implementation of these regulations, because they're the ones who will be most affected by it. So I think they have to push more for it. Yeah.
Okay, so that was important. So what were the other areas with regards to the existing laws or policies that are within the framework of the Gambia? What were some of them that you were looking into? That forms the general background of your study. If you look into the Copyright Act, what were other instruments that you were looking into?
Well, it was primarily the Copyright Act, because it was the Copyright Act that governs copyright ownership in the Gambia. So it was primarily the Copyright Act. However, I did take inspiration from other countries. I did some comparison with other countries with regards to, for example, piracy and the correlation between piracy and the dependence on live performances. Doing my research, I found out that globally, there's this surge in piracy. I mean, it not only affects the Gambian music industry. And as a result, musicians now make more money from performing live than from the sale of their records, their music records.
Exactly.
So yes, so that was one of the correlations I made. I drew a comparison between what's happening in the Gambia and what's happening outside. So that's one thing we have to look at as well. And I also made a interesting observation in my research, is that if Gambian musicians relying on live performance, or tend to rely on live performance because of the high rates of piracy, um, it will be detrimental to them to have a lot of Senegalese artists come and play in the Gambian scene more than we have Gambian musicians playing. I made reference to a Christmas. I think it was the Christmas of 2017, where we had about 13 to 15 Senegalese artists who came in to play during that time. I mean, that's a yes, and these Senegalese artists may. This is not an issue of patriotism. It was just an observation that if you have foreign artists coming in to the live music scene, it's taking away audiences from the Gambian artists, and these Gambian artists, because of the piracy, need these live performances. So there has to be almost an equal playing field for Gambian artists and foreign artists, at least to benefit from the live music thing, since they are not making enough money due to piracy. So that was just another observation I made in my research.
Okay, I think that is also very important. But looking at the performance rights with regards to artists performing, live music, there was this vacuum because the performance rights were not collected because there was no existing collecting society to be able to determine that. So what was your message with regards to and what were your actual findings with regards to that, the performance right?
With regards to the performance rights, collecting of royalties, one of my findings was that it's easier. Some medium or some media of performance, or where performance is shown, like for example TV and radio, it'll be easier to collect royalties from those mediums. But there are other mediums where it's going to be much more difficult. And this also, I made comparison with other jurisdictions as well. For example, if you're going to collect royalties from taxi drivers who play their music, the music of artists on their taxis while driving people away, although it happens in certain countries, they do collect royalties for that. It's difficult. We don't have the manpower for that. Or collecting royalties from DJs. That means DJs may have to register. All DJs have to register, and that would be difficult. So it's easier.
There is a remedy. Maybe probably if I can give you that, if I can suggest that. Yes. We also made a finding some time ago with regards to the Gambia Music Union, and we came to a point whereby we trying to negotiate with the Transport Association of the Gambia. So with the Transport Corporation, because it's a trade union and the music union also is a trade union, we can enter into what you call negotiations and agreement. So the Transport Union will identify all the taxi drivers that are having what you call media in their taxis. And then from that, we can be able to collect maybe $10 every month from them, something like that. And then that will be collected by the Transport Association, and the Transport Association will duly disburse those monies to the collecting society or to whatsoever agency that is responsible to collect those monies.
Oh, that's smart. It's like a licensing fee, sort of.
Exactly, a kind of a licensing fee. And then they can also subtract it directly from GRA, like on their annual fees. It depends on, those taxi drivers who are willing to put what you call music devices, because we should be able to identify those, to know those drivers who are having music devices. Like it can be like a flash drive containing a lot of music, or it can be like a radio or whatsoever. And then from that, they can make those deductions, and that can come directly to the cultural sector. And
Yeah.
what do you think about that also?
Oh, that's very smart. Licensing fee, of course. You have to negotiate that, and also one of the things that I found research was that even though it would be easier to collect from radio stations, there were some radio stations that argued that they shouldn't pay royalties because by playing the music of artists on their platform, they're actually promoting the artists. So why should they pay royalties? So you might come across some of those difficulties when negotiating. But obviously, the right thing is that they do pay royalties. But yeah, I mean, it takes negotiations and also getting them to agree to certain terms. Like the licensing fee idea is great because it's like a basic tax for everybody, and at that low rate, I think you won't find a lot of disagreement to it.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. That is clear. And with regards to the infringement, because we have different components of infringement that is going around with regards to the Gambia, the market, the industry market, the music industry market. What kind of infringements do you see? And then, you have indicated in your research.
Um,
But I just give you an example. Like you go to Serakunda market, you having a lot of retail shops, and they call themselves recording studios. And more or less, what they are doing is a reproduction of the artist's songs and their albums. And so beyond that, what are some of the things that you are seeing also?
yes, that was actually one of the examples, like the one you gave that I pointed out in my research. I gave the example of an album that was published by, or that was released by Jallow. I think at the time, I think it was sometime in 2017. I'm not sure exact on the date. He had made 5,000 copies of the album, and he realized that after about a month or so, he had only sold 28 copies. So there was a raid that was done I think in Serapuna Market, and they found out that they had photocopied his work and they were selling it. That's why his actual copies, the original copies, the 5,000 that he had made, were not even selling. But what happened was, I think he showed some mercy, and they were released after some time. So that was one of the examples I showed in my research. There are other forms of course, copyright infringement, but not very common. Obviously, the photocopying part, like the one you mentioned about these recording shops and so forth, that's the most common one. Of course, we have the online one as well. People getting access to things online. That's a lot more difficult to stop because even countries or IP agencies overseas are struggling to curb that form of piracy. It's quite difficult because what happens if you take down one side, they just create another one. So
Exactly.
it's difficult. That's another form of copyright infringement, of course. That and also before this was a method used before. I don't know if it's used now. When if a song is broadcasted on a radio or something, they record it. It's called like bootlegging, something like that.
Yeah. Genau.
The broadcasts are recorded, but I don't think it's that commonly used now. It's a form of old technology. But the most common one, of course, is a photocopying one, and of course the online one as well.
Yeah, so those were the two areas that you have confirmed. And so you were talking about the implementation lapses with regards to having the Copyright Act being enacted in Parliament in 2004, and then actually not been implemented. So what is your view? What was the problem? Is it a lack of knowledge from the stakeholders, or lack of knowledge from the government, or there is no political will?
Well, political will could be one, but I think the person who could be best in the best position to answer this were people who worked at the Copyright Office. For example, Mr. Hasum Sise, who really helped me with my research. I think at the time he was director of copyright, and yes, manpower could be one. Mr. Hasum Sise is actually very versed with the copyright industry. He's knowledgeable, so I don't think knowledge is the issue. I think it's the finances and the how like the human resource capacity as well to implement this. Of course, police officers also. One of the workshops I attended were with police officers who have been tasked with IP protection. So maybe you could have also an IP protection unit in the police, or even an agency that does that. Or it could be even taken to the Ministry of Justice. There are different ways to do it, but I think the major problem, I might be wrong because I wasn't in the office. I think the best people to answer this were people who work at the office. They are in the best position to know what were the problems with the implementation. But to my own knowledge, it could have been, or it probably is, that a lack of funding, a lack of political will, and the lack of manpower. They do have one or two people there, like Mr. Hasum Sise, who is quite knowledgeable with copyright. So I think those, yeah.
Yeah, we also agree a lot about that because Mr. Sise has a vast knowledge about the copyright. He was the Director General. I think some of us had our trainings through him, some time ago, and yeah, so he was very effective. With regards to the police having training on copyright, because there is what you call copyright policing. So they were trained basically for copyright protection. So that means the act was, enforced in some way. But again, this is not reflected to the stakeholders, that is the creators of these copyrighted works. So what did you find out in your study with regards to that there is some kind of protection going on at the government level, at the security level, but again, when you come down to the creators, it is not actually benefiting them? Did you see anything, with regards to that in your research?
Yeah, what I saw is, for example, is that the policing of IP infringement, it's not active. It's not like proactive. It's more reactive. It's like artist finds out that his work is being infringed. He reports to the police, and the police reacts to that report. So I believe that there are very few proactive mechanisms to stop copyright infringement. That was one of my major findings. Also, whenever police, like for example, they deliver a case where I think some of his products were being infringed, and they arrested some of these people. The people were released based on Jaliba's, how will I say it? He pleaded on their behalf. Simply put, he pleaded on their behalf to be released. So sometimes even the security forces, even though most of their measures are reactive, they're stopped by things like, oh, we plead on their behalf and things like that. So they got released at the end of the day. So it's really hard to, and I've hardly seen in regards to artists, people getting taken to court for copyright infringement, especially piracy. It's not very common for people for infringers to be taken to court on piracy charges, even though it's so rampant. So that was just one of my observations of it. That the reactive measures that they take instead of the employing proactive measures.
Yeah, because when you look at it, there's supposed to be a tribunal. I don't know whether you come across that in the act. There's supposed to be a tribunal that should have been set up, and this tribunal is mainly to speed up, the the court cases that will come in with regards to copyright infringement. So have you laid your hands on that during your
No,
study?
I'm not aware of a copyright tribunal. I think I'm aware of industrial property.
Property.
Industrial property. That's different from copyrights. I think it was separated. So industrial property deals with patents and trademarks, but
Rights and trademarks and all that. So, but it was all included. It was all included in the same Copyright Act because it was looking into both, industrial property right and at the same time copyright. So there are supposed to be a tribunal, if I'm not mistaken, a tribunal to be able to speed up the court cases that are coming up because copyright infringement is a serious crime. And that is why most of the court cases are going directly to High Court.
Yeah, but based on my own research on the Copyright Act, there is no tribunal just for copyrights or for copyright infringements. Yes, I believe there's an industrial property tribunal, but the Industrial Property Act deals with a separate issues, which are patents, trademarks. Copyright Act deals with copyrights. So the tribunal for industrial property obviously deals with those issues, but there's no tribunal for the copyright issue. So maybe if there's a new bill coming which merges the two, maybe we can have a tribunal which handles all trademarks, copyrights, and of course it will be effective. But again, like I said, there are very few cases that I see with regards to copyright infringements. So I don't think it's an issue of cases being delayed in court because there are not many cases on that are going on right now.
Okay. So I was aware of Payson Sonko and then Sukai Bojan's Anti-Sukai Bojan's book that was reproduced by some of the schools, and then that case was in the court. I was aware that she won the cases, and there was a time also there was this issue between Afrisal and Hakim, the producer, and G, but that was out of court settlement. Out of court settlement. I was aware of those two. So these were copyright infringements. And then during that time, we had initially the Collecting Society of the Gambia, and they decided to take up those cases, and it was effective, to set an example,
Yeah, like you said, even the Hakim case settled out of court. That's how most of these cases are with regards to copyright infringement. Even the Jallow case settled out of court. So most of them are. So you hardly like the patients was a precedent in that regard, but there are not many cases like that. Like unlike criminal cases where you have one in court every day, copyright infringement cases don't occur like that, and it's very rare. I mean, I haven't come across a lot of copyright infringement cases, even going through the law reports. I mean, of the Gambia, many law reports have been published. I haven't seen so many copyright infringement cases. So maybe in the future, but for now, no. So maybe that's why also they didn't create a tribunal for it, because there's not a lot of caseload with regards to copyright cases as well.
Okay. So like we spoke before, you don't want to comment on the new draft IP Act because you were one of the drafters, and then there is consultation that is going around, and the paper is not yet in Parliament, which we understand. So we had wanted to take this opportunity when the director is here, because he wanted to talk about the new IP Act. Then we could have you as a special guest to be able to interpret some of the areas with regards to the law that is available. But right now he is not available. So I just want to tell you, in 2014 we had the Copyright Act of the Gambia, so which is supposed to be implemented. 2004, so which is supposed to be implemented. And now here we are in 2020, they want to come up with a new IP Act, which is going to move us away from the copyright regime. So is it because of failure of implementation? That is the reason why the new IP Act dissolved what you call the Collecting Society of the Gambia, because the Collecting Society of the Gambia was indicated in the Copyright Act 2004. And then we can hold government responsible for not institutionalizing that office.
I don't understand the question. Does the new IP bill, does it dissolve the collecting society?
Yeah, because according to the director of performing arts, the collecting society is mariborn. So it's mariborn,
So
and then yeah. So the
collect?
new draft did not indicate the collecting society of the Gambia as an institution. It only indicates like there can be like collective management organizations, which is the CMOs, like private. They want to privatize it.
Well, I believe that could work because, for example, in Senegal, and that was something I pointed out. The collecting societies is run by the artists themselves, I believe, and the performers themselves, the copyright owners themselves, not the government. So it's an opportunity for artists to take charge if the act allows that artists can create their own collecting agencies and their own collecting associations. That could work.
What makes you think that? What makes you think that that can work?
Like I said, in other countries, even in the US, collecting societies are not managed by government.
Okay.
Yes. So and it works there. So it could be the way to go.
All right. Yeah. So that is fine. Beyond that, will you be able to tell us some of the areas with regards to the draft, if you have come across some of those sections that were like lacking in the then Copyright Act, and you think they were adversely mentioned in the IP draft, and you think that will bring a kind of a change for the Gambia if we have a copyright regime that is functional?
Unfortunately, I haven't come across the act or the other bill. I was hoping to hear from, of course, the Mr. Sheikh Omar. And I didn't know where. In fact, I searched online to see if I could find it, get access to it. I could not. So I was hoping to get it, hear about it for the first time here, and then ask him to send it to me later on so I can read into it in depth, because it's interesting for me, because I want to see.
I could have sent it to you if you told me. I had the draft with me.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Okay, I'm gonna do that after this interview. I will send it to you.
But I'll be happy to come another time to talk about it if you so wish. I could do that. But unfortunately, I haven't come across it. But one thing you have to note that passing another law does not ensure enforcement, or does not ensure implementation. You don't implement policies by passing a fresh legislation. I mean, exactly. Of course, it doesn't guarantee implementation. So, but obviously, if they're passing a new one, maybe the new areas that weren't touched on doing under the Copyright Act, the current Copyright Act, that they want to expand on now, the new one. So maybe the new innovative areas that they thought fit would be best captured in the new legislation. So maybe that's the case. I would love to get my hands on it and look into it, and maybe come on another date. I'll be happy to come on another date, given the unfortunate circumstances with regards to Sheikh not being here. So
not being here, yeah, because extensively they focus on trademarks, industrial property rights, which you mentioned earlier, including patent rights, trademarks, and other rights. But you can see that most of those rights, they are protected by the government, because, government to government, government have a lot of copyrighted issues that they deal with, daily, and that is why they have a strong IP office, at the Justice Ministry before. So I am very much aware with that. But what can you tell us with the copyright regime in the Gambia? What do you think it can be able to contribute to the socio-economic development of the country, and also to the creators, the ones who are creating these copyrighted works?
Of course, copyrights. These are moral and economic rights. The
Mm-hmm.
economic part is very important, and when people talk about copyrights, they lay emphasis on the economic part.
Mm-hmm.
The right to sell your work, right to make money out of your work. So
Mm-hmm.
that's very obvious. I mean, if piracy and all these other issues don't happen, uh, artists will tend to make more money out of their work. I mean, there have been instances where, in fact, expanding it, there have been instances where record labels, for
Mm-hmm.
example, have shut down in the Gambia because they don't make enough money.
Mm-hmm.
They've shut down, and when you talk about a record label, the producers there, the musicians there, there are other auxiliary staff that are employed by them. So
Mm-hmm.
it's also a source of employment. Like, the creative industries create employment. So if there's no money coming in, how would those industries or this industry create employment for people? There's also even a time that even artists leave the industry because they don't make enough money out of it. I remember it was some years ago. It was even one of the biggest artists in the Gambia. That he retired from the music industry, and according to I got a quote for it on my research paper. I quoted it from one of the articles when he claimed that the music industry doesn't help him pay his bills.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of economic interest that can be gained from our creative industries if we protect them very well, if we put the mechanisms in place, if there's a collecting society. An article in 2014, I forgot who was author of this article. He said that due to the failure of the collecting society, the creative industries loses about 7 point something million dollars every year. And that was back.
Annually.
Yes, and that was back in 2014. Could be more now. So this is money being lost out of artists and creators' pockets. So and also the chance to create jobs as well for people. So it's there's a lot of economic interest if we put the right structures in place.
Yeah. So because you were talking about copyright policing officers, which were trained in your present, and that is one side of employment that it creates, even at the security level. You also have quarantine officers. They can be immigration personnel who are stationed at the airport and borderline towns within the Gambia, so that they can be able to control some of these materials, like materials that they bring into the Gambia with regards to copyright infringement. We know that is happening in other countries. One can call them the Duane. They also work closely, to be able to protect. You also have officers working with the collecting society and the different arts associations also. When they are vibrant, they have officers that are working in their offices. This create a lot of employment. And most importantly, the copyright is in two folds. It encourages a dynamic creative culture and also give back revenue to the creators. So when we look at it in all those sides, we will realize to the fact that it is a contributor to socio-economic development of a country. And
Yes.
how do you think we can be able to measure those indicators with regards to the collection, and then at the same time, providing revenue for the government? Because this is very difficult for us as the creators. We don't understand how is government going to benefit from the monies that we are going to collect from royalties. And so, do you have any knowledge about that?
I do not have any knowledge with regards to the collection of royalties.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think every income is taxed. I think there's a tax for every income, but you'll have to talk to the taxman for that, the tax authorities, the DRAs for that, to see how much tax is going to be levied on royalties collected and all the incomes collected from by artists and copyright owners. So you have to discuss that with them. I think that's how government would benefit more money more money flowing within the creative industries. It's through taxation, obviously. But the biggest benefactors of a good copyright regime, or a very standard copyright regime, will be, of course, the creators themselves, will be, of course, the artists themselves and other copyright owners, the publishers, and also the record labels. So they stand to benefit the most. Of course, government could also tax, but I'm not too afraid with taxation laws, and you'll have to discuss that with the GRA officers. Maybe you have them here one day and have
One
that
day.
discussion.
Okay, so yeah, because we want to make that we can establish the facts and then bring it forward, but again, we think that they have a hand with regards to the tax that is going to be collected. So some will tell you that a subtraction or deduction of VAT levies will be on some of these payments that are coming in, but again, we are not the experts to be able to gauge that. And that is the reason why we opted to ask those questions, because the legal instruments, when they are enacted, by parliament and then, initiated by a government, we think there should be a remedy to be able to know how to, collect monies with regards to the source of money that is coming out from those industries.
Yes. The thing is, everything is up in the air for now, since the bill hasn't passed yet, and I haven't seen the contents of the bill, and we haven't gotten an idea of how implementation methods will go ahead. And also, with regards to the current position, like for example, the Copyright Act. The Copyright Act came into being before we had things like VAT tax and things like that. So how would that affect the future collection of creative revenue, or revenue for creative industries? I do not know. These are all things that are up in the air, and we have to discuss further. And of course, we need experts in government, and of course at the tax office to shed more light on it. But it's, like I said, it's still up in the air. I haven't. If I had an idea of what the IP bill contains, maybe I could have shed more light on it. But for now, I'm not in a position to share that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We understand that, and we will try to get maybe an officer from GRA to be able to tell us exactly, how monies will be coming and what are going to be the deductions and some of the indicators that they will look into to be able to derive some of these revenues that are coming in through collection. So what was essential, and what do you think in your research finally you were able to know that with a copyright regime in the Gambia, what it could have benefited the creators? That part, what was your conclusion in the research?
Of course, I've actually mentioned it. I think the biggest benefit that could come out of it is economic, of course. Money speaks volumes, like they say. Money is the reason why most people go into certain things. Of course, some of us love our profession, but most of us wouldn't be in it if it didn't pay the bills. So the biggest takeaway from it, if we had a very good copyright regime, is it's, of course, the economic benefits from it, more money in the creators' pockets, and of course potentially more money for the government. And also there are other social issues that come into it, even uh, the potential for collaboration between countries as well. Because if your IP regime is doing well, you could collaborate come into agreements. There are usually these agreements between countries. Exactly, reciprocal
agreements. Yeah.
Exactly, for the protection of copyrights between the countries. So, but you can only do that with, with a strong copyright regime. You can't enter into an agreement with, let's say, an agency, a copyright protection agency in America, when they have the tools to protect your own copyright there, but you don't have the schools to protect theirs here. So you can enter into reciprocal agreements. So those are just some of the benefits, but primarily, of course, it's economic. Money, like I said, money speaks volumes, and it's the reason why most people get into the profession. It's the reason why, apart from the love for it, it's the reason why most people go into the creative industries. It's
So,
yeah.
so that comes to my question. So generally, on your conclusion, what was the economic viability? Were you able to sum up that into your research? The economic viability of what is happening within the creative industry, as you see with regards to performances going on yearly, especially during that Christmas. You talk about 13 artists coming from foreign and performing in the Gambia.
Yes, there is a lot of economic viability. I mean, even recently we've seen, because of course my research was done back in 2018.
Mm.
In the past year or so, from 2019 now, we've seen artists who have sold out venues. I mean, Jizzle, ST. I mean, we see that Gambian artists can make money out of
In one
out of
night.
live performances. So it's the proof is there. The proof is in the pudding, like they say. So there's a lot of economic viability there, and we just have to put the structures in place to make sure that we benefit from it to the utmost. So that's that, and I hope this IP bill is able to do that. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the implementation of it. It's not just, you might have a beautiful document, you might have all the protection mechanisms in writing, but the implementation is the most important thing. And I hope that it will help, like it will help fulfill the potential that the creative industry in Gambia has. And we've seen evidence of how much how will I put it, how much economically viable the creative industry, especially the music industry, can be.
Okay. Thank you so much. We want to thank you, Mr. Dean, for joining us tonight on the Showbiz in Focus. One of our viewers is saying international collaboration is mandatory by CISAC. CISAC is a collecting society that is international. But again, like we said before, Uncle Badu Job is saying that he said, so the taxi driver have to pay copyright royalties to make up for DJs, etc., people who are making an income from the creator's work. What he is trying to say is that the DJs are playing on air, like in the radio stations, they are playing music, which is from the creators, and then at the same time, the taxi drivers also, they play music that belongs to the creators. But that is what we are talking about. If we have institutions that are functional with regards to collecting royalties, they will be able to, the creators will be able to benefit from that. I think that was also part of your study. You did focus on that.
Pardon, I didn't get that. On what?
Did you focus on the areas like DJs playing music without paying performance rights and taxi drivers? You talked about that before.
I talked about that. It wasn't necessarily a focus, but I did mention it. I think what he's saying is, and I do agree with him, is that, for example, you're a taxi driver. You can make money as a taxi driver without playing music. You don't have to play music to drive your customers from point.
Maybe you even disturb a passenger. A passenger is there who need calm, and then he's complaining, "Oh, wanyil sa radio be, yang yo disturb wanyil radio be." Or somebody is sick and then going to hospital, but doesn't need like sound, and then you play music in the taxi, and then so that guy is not comfortable, and the person is paying money to his or her money.
That's a very good point. I think I do believe, and I do agree with him, that the DJs, you can be a DJ without music, but you can be a taxi driver without music. So the duty of paying royalties should lay more on DJs than on taxi drivers. But at the same time, I do believe that it might work that they pay licensing fee if they they want to play music, or you can have an agreement with them. But of course, the DJs should be under a greater duty to pay royalties.
But I think that comes also to, I don't know whether you come across that, the broadcasting right, because the media houses, they also have what you call the broadcasting licensing fees. So creators could be able to pay that to get their sounds played, and at the same time, the DJs, because the problem we have is that it is about organization. Like everyone can be a DJ. Just have a bunch of music in your playlist, and then you are okay. You can have them in the internet. You download them, and even having knowledge or background of which kind of music that you are playing together, because you have some DJs who are extremely good, so they know the 70 musics, they know the 80 music, they know the contemporary music, so they can be able to distinguish some of these songs, and they can talk about it as well. They can educate people, and some DJs can really do that. But you have some DJs, they don't even know, they cannot even spin, they cannot, the DJing part of it, they don't even know it. So they got these songs downloaded from the internet, and then go to a radio station and start playing, and people call them DJs. So I think when the regime is up and running, so some of these DJs, because the radio station owners have to seek for the right DJs, the DJs who have the caliber and they have the profession to be able to provide those playlists. I think this is also the problem that we are facing. Because
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, because critically, I don't want to go in depth before some of the DJs jump on me.
Yeah, it's ultimately it's going to take a lot of negotiation. Like they say, it's hard to get used to change. We've been used to the system where everything is played for free. Even Africa and some of these GSM operators use some of music on their services. I don't know, ringtone services for free.
Ringtone, yeah.
For example, Africa will be playing the music from America. I mean, playing Adele's music or Justin Bieber's music without his authority, without probably getting even the rights to do that. And we used to.
Mr. Deen, you are the one saying it, because you are the one saying it. You are the one saying it. We've been discussing about that quite a long time in the Gambia, but we always lower our voice, because we always lower our voice. But we know that is happening. We know. There is a lot of infringement happening, and I used to say, it's just like you having an ozone of water, and there is this vacuum that is created. So I can dip, if I have a flask or I have a gallon, 1 gallon with me, I can come with this gallon and dip it in the ozone and take whatever I want to take. So this is how I normally talk about the Gambian music, or creative sector. So there is this kind of vacuum. So if you have somebody who is a very big investor, so he will just come and invest on only events, and then he make a lot of money out of the creators. What do you say about that?
What was that? What do you mean?
So I was saying, if you have an investor, he will just come and redirect his focus only on events. Just to avoid paying royalties. You are avoiding the question. Music users must pay copyright royalties. So one of my viewers is saying music users must pay copyright royalties, because he said I am avoiding the questions. Yeah. So you are avoiding the questions. That's what I'm talking about. There is a vacuum that is created.
I'm actually not avoiding the question. I did mention that music users should. And in fact, that was one of the things I mentioned in my research. I'm not avoiding any question, but actually we have to know how you go about it. The law is actually clear. I mean, but it's up to, it was according to the copyright, it's up to the collecting society to come up with ways to collect these royalties, and of course using music. If not, there are exceptions though where you don't pay royalties, but most of what we've seen don't fall under those exceptions.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
yes, so they do. I'm not denying that they shouldn't pay royalties. So what I'm saying
But
is
that
they
is
could say
just traditional
they
music.
could
That is just
have to
traditional music that goes to public domain. So, it doesn't require
exactly.
any copyright or whatsoever. But somebody is saying, I think the taxi drivers play music that is transmitted by radio stations. So I agree with him that more emphasis of paying royalties should be on radios, unless if there is a mean to tax any device or memory or sound card. Yeah, that's what we are talking about. That is the reason you need quarantine officers at the border points and in the airport, so that they can be able to know some of these copyright devices that are coming into the Gambia, and then they can be able to levy some kind of fee from that. I could remember Uncle Hassan was saying there will be some kind of a code that will be given to most of the importers who are bringing those devices, and then immediately a licensing fee is deducted from there, and that goes to the creative sector. Yeah. What do you say about that?
That's a good idea. I hardly I hardly disagree with Mr. Hassan Sisi. Of course, he's one of the brains with regards to copyright protection in Gambia. In fact, for my research, I mean, I always asked him questions about most of the things I was doing. So yes, that could of course work, but of course, the implementation of things of what he's saying is another issue. Of course, what he said so far has not been implemented, has it?
Yeah, exactly. Traditional music and public domain is not the same. Yeah, we understand that, but there are some traditional music. I'm not saying all traditional music. That's Uncle Badijo. He's our favorite reviewer. Yeah, but he got a vast music knowledge. He lives in Norway, and he was the founder of the famous Ifambondi.
Yeah, I'm aware. I mentioned them in my research.
You mentioned yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah, so it's Uncle talking. He got a vast
Yeah.
knowledge about. He's enjoying royalties at the moment, so he knows all we are talking about. Um, yeah, so you were talking about the radio stations and with regards to the DJs. Like I said, the DJs will not be able to pay that because it is not enforced. If the law is enforced, if the collecting society is up and running, and they have negotiations and agreements with the radio stations or the media houses, that would have been done, then the radio stations, they will talk to their DJs to provide a playlist, and this is mentioned in the Copyright Act. I think, Mr. Dean.
Sorry, I didn't get that. You were saying?
So I was talking about the providing a playlist from the radio stations to the copyright collecting society to be able to monitor. But again, even
That
now
was
we have, yeah.
specifically provided for in the Copyright Act.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't provided for in the Copyright Act. Is I think that would have to be determined by the collecting society as per the Copyright.
That's what I'm talking about. It has to be determined by the collecting society, and that negotiations and agreements should be set by the collecting society with the radio stations. And because we don't have a functional collecting society in the Gambia, that is the problem. That is why we are not having all this. And this is the reason why I said, because the collecting society is mentioned in the act, it could have been the role of the government to give a seed grant to be able to make this collecting society operational, because it was mentioned in the act as a necessity.
Yes, I do agree, and for the fact that it was in the act, it was the responsibility of government to provide the necessary funds and the needed manpower to make sure that the functions of the collecting society was performed to the utmost. But there were failings in that regard, and well, what's in the past is in the past. So we should just try to see how to move forward from that, how to either get this current collective society up and running, or if the act comes into place, see what best ways to have a new collective society up and running that could collect royalties on behalf of the artists and the creators. Yes.
Yeah. So he is saying in the absence of code, you submit playlist. So because that is right. The playlist that the DJs will be providing to the collecting society, if they don't have a code for the musics that they are playing, which are not copyrighted, that is when they have to provide a playlist. But again, the monitoring system will be able to do that. We have technology systems that you can be able to put in place to be able to monitor that. And then, I think the director, Hasum Cisse, told us that, he is corresponding with a lot of technology firms and some of the international collecting societies who have these systems in place, and they are willing to work with the Gambia as soon as, these societies are up and running. So I don't think that will be a problem for the Gambia. So finally, Mr. Deen, it's an 1 hour time. What do you want to say to our viewers with regards to having a vibrant copyright regime in the Gambia, and then your expectations for the new draft? If you read it, maybe probably we will have you here again when we have the director or any official from the government with regards to continuing our discussions on matters with concern to the creative sector of the Gambia. What is your last words?
My last words, it's possible. I mean, everyone started from somewhere. I mean, not all copyright regimes that are fully functioning now were functioning before, and you're going to meet certain hits on the road or certain bumps, and sometimes you have to take some redirections, find ways to make things work. But it's possible. It's possible, and I think that it will ultimately benefit the creators at the end of the day. Like I said, creators should take ownership of this, even the implementation of the IP bill, whatever it may turn out to be. They should take the forefront in implementation, since they will be the biggest benefactors of it. So they should push if necessary. If government support is necessary, push for the government support, and whatever effort they should put in themselves. I mean, the creators themselves, they should do that, because at the end of the day, they will be the biggest benefactors. I saw a comment that the economic viability is small because IP creators are very limited, I think, in the Gambia. Well, economic viability, of course, you can look at it at the broad sense.
Exactly.
Exactly like the whole country. You can also look at it personally, right? Is it economically viable for me? And that's what I was referring to. There are artists who are making it. The artists who are breaking in millions. So if one artist is doing it, why not others? If one publisher is making good money from his products, why not another? So it's not as if, of course, Gambia is a small market, but despite that, there are people in this small market who are making it. So I think the economic value, I took it from that perspective, and I said that it is possible if the right mechanisms are put in place for artists individually to make.
I already got information from Sheikh Omar that he got a breakdown and he is on his way coming in. So now he is joining us now. So, but I'm gonna leave you. But there is something very important I had wanted to say. We can still argue about that. I also have my own point of view that because the economic viability is there. We have made some studies before and then we realized to the fact that there is a lot of creators that are in the Gambia. It doesn't matter whether they do the right creation. That can be an argument, because a lot of people can say, okay, most of the creators, they are like copying other people's music. But again, we have a great number of Gambian musicians that are creating. They are doing anything that they do is original. You have countless of them. Most of them are even not residing in the Gambia, but they are in Europe, and they have copyrighted their works. And even the young generational artists, because of the new twist in the music sector globally, even the young artists, they have a way of making their songs, because you have beats that are created by top music labels, and these young kids, they get their music from those people. And then you have a lot of young producers in the Gambia who have studied up to university level, and they are creating these songs, and these young artists are singing on them. And most importantly, also, we have a lot of them who are listening, and then they are trying to be original in their creations, and they are putting our culture also into the music. So we cannot say we don't have creators in the Gambia. We have a lot of creators. We have some of them we don't even know about, because they are not exposed. So it is our role to be able to exploit all those people, and then to have these systems in place so that it can be able to protect X, Y, Z, and Z. So I think that is what we have to work into. We cannot say we have to wait until we are like big, or we have all the resources to be able to enforce these things. The foundations must be laid down, so that when the young generation come, they can be able to benefit from those foundations that the elders have laid down for the others to benefit from. So I think that is what we have to look into. So there is some form of economic viability in the sector. So accept me, Sheikh Omar. We have to accept you. Sheikh Omar was saying we have to accept him. Yes.
Yes, I will
Yes.
have to.
Just wait a minute. Let him go. Where is Musa? Musa. I'm waiting. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much, Mr. Dean, for joining us. And it was a pleasant evening to have you here on the Showbiz in Focus, and then we will try to have you on again. All right. Thank you so much. Accept Sekomar is coming in. Accept. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dean.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Boy, Sheikh Omar, accept Sheikh Omar. Hello, Sheikh Omar said he's in. Can you accept him? Yeah. Yeah, I sent him that. Yeah. Yeah, that is what I sent him. Yeah, Mr. Dean is out.
Gambian Talents TV, Nunulela Dokuo Seneyata. Gambia Talents TV, Nunulela Dokuo Betiata. Gambia, Ngala Dokuo Betiata. Gambia Talents TV, Nunulela Dokuo Seneyata. Gambia Talents TV, Nunulela Dokuo Betiata. Yeah, Gambia, Ngala Dokuo Seneyata. Yo Gambian Talents TV njalam alnal badi malam nene jeli suso bintele bale jantonko alkal Gambian Talents TV lamo every day and night TV lo mi yalla nako mashallah ila diamol kabeti yalla promotional kabeti yalla wow ala baraka bake ala baraka fosila koteng
ngali yende o ko nyulle nata ka musico lu kidimandi nyulle nata ka artiso lu kidimandi nyulle nata ka Jallow ganyandi nyulle nata o ka Jallow fanam fintindi Facebook oto YouTube Facebook oto ko YouTube Gambia Talent muna promotion lem Gambia Talent muna promotion ngonde jaworode maribunga wate buna nke jubele wate buna nke la moile wate buna nke la kuomila Gambia Talent boy ngoe dulle nata oy kantol kidimandi kantol sewondi kantol nganyandi Gambia Talent buna Gam Talent boy ewali pa Usman Ju inimba
You want to know about the Gambia entertainment industry? You want to know the existing policies and programs of the arts and culture sector? You want to know about the governance and management of the arts associations? The program will throw a fresh light on the entertainment industry in focus. We will touch so many angles about the cultural sector, the opportunities and challenges, and interrogate them, and most importantly, offer solutions.
Supersonics money transfer wolle kudima na falia kabosai kata Oktoba karo bandula. Kabosai kata Oktoba karo bandula ipeganyo roke la mani botolal wato wati nitata kodota Gambia banko kanjang membota na UK, Europe, USA, Canada wala for Switzerland ni atambini Supersonics money transfer bari diata kabosai kata Oktoba karo bandula wato wati nitata kodota Gambia banko kanjang membota na UK, Europe, USA, Canada wala for Switzerland alonko ni mani boto be sela suo konol nko mani boto keme dronne bijede ote bamban sain fay daka sinyi moke mol kono meni be gagné rokela nyum kudi mala kabosai kata Oktoba karo bandula anin Supersonics money transfer dorong ibe nyum sotola wol inyo sewondi nyum ku koyola men tariata ala no warta dum bata da clinteje ko ditala karola katu yalo ne ko nyulen ko dita dulatu men warta Gambia banko be kanja woto ni ko do taje wato wati hani fadino itajo la je tan na Google Play Store wala na Apple Store bi ye Supersonics money transfer app download ye ni sewondi anin nyum ko dita dula anin Supersonics ni kudi ma be sotola woto dronne.
You want to know about the Gambia entertainment industry? You want to know the existing policies and programs of the arts and culture sector? You want to know about the governance and management of the arts associations? The program will throw a fresh light on the entertainment industry in focus. We will touch so many angles about the cultural sector, the opportunities and challenges, and interrogate them, and most importantly, offer solutions. So here we go again with the Honorable Director of Performing Fine Arts and Literature, Mr. Omar Jallow. My boss, where were you today?
Kalilu, I have to apologize to all the audience. both nationally and internationally. Everyone following this program, I had a car breakdown, and I was with this garage for them to fix the car for me to get home, and it wasn't easy getting over here. But finally,
Okay.
they made it up after Maghrib prayers. I had to struggle on, the traffic. So it was
Okay.
really crazy on the traffic getting home, but I was really eager to be on this program. Thank you.
So you already lost your friend lawyer Nasiru Deen of the Toronto Chambers. He was here with us, and he gave us some insight about his research that he conducted some time ago, supported by the National Center for Arts and Culture, on copyright infringement and how it affects the Gambia music industry. So you lose that opportunity, but maybe we will have him here back again. Mr. Jallow, I want to start with you by giving a tribute to the late Ibu Wage. I wanted to do that when you were here before with Mr. Dean, but because we did not have you, so I want you to start that. Were you at the burial?
Yes, Kalilu, I think it's a sad news. Actually, it's a loss to our fraternity. It's a great loss to the industry because more or less, Ibu Wage was like somehow the kind of the great filmmakers in Senegal. Despite we haven't reached that level, but he was at least a doyen in the film sector. In the fact that he has really steered to put the cinema industry at his own pace and tried very well. I remember meeting Ibu Wage some 20 to 30 years ago when he was with Citizen FM. And as a young man, he met me and recognized me and said to me that, "Are you the boy who acted the film called Lamin?" I said yes. That was in 1987 when that was the Gambia's first film, the first film made in the Gambia. Actually, Kalilu, for your information, I acted that film. It's called Lamin. It was
Lamin.
being produced, it was being produced by the NRK, Norwegian TV Broadcasting Corporation. In fact, that's the film that took me all around the Scandinavia, and then I got my scholarships for education through primary, high school to sixth form, all the way down to my university. So that was actually being created by the Norwegian TV Broadcasting Corporation, and it was being produced by Christian Jacobsen. It has been in the chart within the Scandinavian chart at that time for almost 10 consecutive weeks. And within that period, it was actually being held by Sheikh Tijan Yang. Sheikh Tijan Yang was the director of tourism at then. And they actually they needed that film to promote tourism. And the film is called the Bombster film. That's why a lot of people do recognize me and call me. I instigated Bombster because Bombster, the name wasn't Bombster. The name was first called Kingsa. Chingsa. They call it Chingsa. And it was in that film that the name changed to become Bombster because I was referred in the film as Bombster. So Ibu recognized that in me and invited me at the radio station with Babukar Jeng. I had this interview with them as a young man, and since then we started working on. And even when I returned back from the States, I set up the Kanyaleng Theatre Academy, which Pa Osman actually attested last week in our discussion. Ibu was part of my board. He was part of the board that assisted me working through, despite he was working with the Gambia International Roots Foundation. So we had been working together very well. In fact, he was a partner that had to help me when we were actually applying for the EU Cinema Support Program to resuscitate the cinema industry of the Gambia. That was a time when I collaborated with, and then we did the project on, and we have been working since then. And of recent, I have been, of course, before that, when I came to the NCAC, I was setting up the artistic groups, and prominently, of course, the film industry had to be set because we need the sector also. He was one of the first persons who actually also approached me in that office, and then we start talking about how do we set FPAC, which is the Film Producers Association of the Gambia. So he actually assisted in consolidating the constitution of that association, and then we went to Congress, and he was lucky to become the first president of the Film Producers Association of the Gambia. And we had actually worked together within that period to steer a lot of films, a lot of work. And it was within this period that he was, of course, nominated as part of the jury in Nigeria and South Africa, and he was going va-et-vient in most recent years to become a jury in this film festival, like Kilav and Osogufwa, and so many of those films that are actually international. So he was part of a jury, in those films. And in fact, it is part of that. That is why last year I became a jury at the FESPACO, part of the jury in FESPACO for the Medai Door, and that was all for some of the works that we've been in. And the most recent one
in Ivory Coast. FESPACO is in Ivory Coast.
Yeah. No, FESPACO is in Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
That is the Pan-African Film Festival. Yeah, it's the biggest film festival in Africa. Okay. It's the #1 film festival in Africa. So I was part of the jury, the last FESPACO, and I had to, unfortunately, no Gambian film appeared there, but I did some private screening for the impact films that were done by some of the trainees that we had trained in the motion picture arts training program that the NCAC had in 2015. So we were able to, make a screening of that film during the FESPACO so as to be able to show that Gambia is also on the coming. And we were hoping that the next FESPACO, which I did promise, that Gambia will be featured and we will show our films and films made by the Gambians. And we were working on that. And of recent, the most interesting part, Kalilu, and the most heartbreaking part is Ibu approached me at one time and we were discussing about how do we integrate the training of filmmakers and the photographers into the tertiary education. Kalilu, you wouldn't believe that NACA, National Accreditation, Authority, do not have any single tertiary institution in the country that is training any aspect of the creative and the creative sector, from theater, from film, from drama, you name it, fashion, any aspect of the culture and creative industry. There is no tertiary institution or training center that is training people in these sectors. It was very much unfortunate because even if a mechanic now can have a diploma in mechanics. I'm sure you know that even a hairdresser can now have even a certificate in hairdressing. So you name them. There are so many areas that we have not got being accredited by NACA. And Ibu was one of the first persons who started thinking about this and approached the office, and we were able to think of when this thing was approached to NACA. NACA did not have any curriculum because there was no curriculum developed in these aspects. And we were working on that so as to be able to develop a film training academy and photography so as to start one in the Gambia. And this was just nipped in the bud by the Almighty Allah. But I think, as I said at the burial, and when we went to sympathize or to condolence with the association, because I mobilized the photographers, the filmmakers, and all of them, most of them, they have representatives that came down to GRTS entrance, and then we did a nice march towards the family, and then we called to him, in which we made a tribute to his work.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Director, for those messages. We pray that the Almighty grant him to Jannah and also forgive all his shortcomings. But I want to say, what are some of the plans you have in mind to keep his legacy? Because we heard that he was placing a I don't know, a film academy.
Yeah, Carl, that was a private initiative that he was doing, of course, on his own private age. And I think we were, of course, was facilitating, we were working, listening to what he was bringing in. And now, as I did promise at the condolence, meeting, I did say that Gambia will not resent from his work. The great works that he has done, he will never resent and and step away from those responsibilities, because he's already started something which we know the country needs.
Okay.
We need it, with or without. We are going to do it. It's a question of now, how do we put a PPP, which is public-private partnership, with the family, so as to bring this into friction. And that is something that I have promised to the family, that my doors are open. The director responsible for that sector, my doors are, and I am very much willing to work with the family on a PPP, which is a public-private partnership, so as to be able to do it. And then we see that we realize at least a training academy for film productions in the country and photography.
Mr. Jallow, your network is breaking. We are not hearing you properly. Can you move a little bit to a direction that will be better for you? Your network is a little bit breaking down. I don't know.
Okay, I don't know how about it now. Is it getting better now?
Your network was breaking down, so maybe now it's better. The last time you were at a place in your house, that was
still breaking. Oh, if that's the case, because I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the last time you were at a place, the reception was very good in that place. Maybe if you can search a place where the network reception, because you were saying something very, very important with regards to the late Ibu Wage. And I heard you saying...
Yeah, how about here now?
Yeah, now you are loud and clear. So you were talking about public-private partnership with regards to ensuring his legacy doesn't fade away.
Yes, as I said, that we are planning, of course, having a PPP, which is a public-private partnership with his family. And because it's a private work that he was doing and initiating, he has gone very far. So we would not want to hijack it from him like that. What we are going to do is to have a partnership with the family, so as to enhance it, so that it becomes at least one of the first national, tertiary institution training film and photography. This is something that we are going to work with the family. We had already discussed with, I have already discussed with the son, Pa Abduwage, and we are hopeful that we will partner and work this dream, bring it in focus. And the second thing that we have also factored is his works, his creative works. As you know very well, that copyright is for your lifetime. When you create a work, it's for your lifetime as the author until, for your lifetime. And it is 70 years after you passed away.
You pass away, yeah.
70 years after you passed away. So the legacy that he has left behind has a mandate to be protected for the next 70 years, and the income goes to the family. For anybody who uses his work, for anyone who uses his work, it means he has made an infringement and needs to pay his work. So that is something that we have asked them to collect all his works and come and register it, because we cannot also collect anything on his behalf when we do not have the power of
The power of attorney.
They have to license the copyright office so as to be able to collect on his behalf. And that was not done. Unfortunately, this is what is happening with a lot of Gambians who are creators, who are doing works, and they are not registering these works. So unfortunately, it would be a big task for most people not to benefit from copyright, even if they passed away. Then we will have to have a challenge, because we cannot collect on their behalf, or we cannot fight anything on their behalf, because the works were not registered on the copyright. It becomes a big loss. So we want to set a big bright example with his work this time. As I told them, we want to see if you want to benefit from his works and want to keep it for the next 70 years, I would encourage you to approach the Copyright Office at the National Center for Arts and Culture and let it be registered, so that we make sure that the collection mechanisms that are in place, or that will be in place, is able to benefit from it. This is another part that is so sad, that we have not got as far as his works were concerned.
Yeah, I want to see if we have, before we come into the program proper, with regards to JIPO. This is very, very important. This is your favorite topic, JIPO, the Gambia Intellectual Property Office. The nomenclature, a lot of people were asking me that we have a lot of abbreviations, CSG, IP, JIPO, and then music, and then GAMU. So we have a lot of NCAC. So the abbreviations, a lot of people want to know the meanings. So it's important that we have, as the director, to give us those clarity. Is Pa Usman with us? Pa Usman, my boss.
Yes, Khalilu, how are you?
There were, fine, sir. There were a lot of messages, tribute messages that were sent to you across the world with regards to the late Ibu Wage. What can you tell us about that in short? Because we don't have enough time in the program.
Well, Ibu is indeed a legend, and that is why Gambian talents have been very involved when it comes to working with him. In 2018, when we did our annual road to Ndewenal, he was one of the folks that we visited, and he talked a lot. This is not a project that we feature any Tom, Dick, and Harry. So he was indeed a legend, and that is why we visited him at the time. Until a few months ago, I was constantly in touch with him when it comes to with the TRRC. As we do our coverages of the TRRC, he was responsible for the communication unit, and my mind went straight to that. This is before to come to what you say. I have a personal relationship with him. Pa Abdul Wage, his son, is my schoolmate. We used to move together. I remember them very well. Time be Madam School. I mean, we go to his house to visit with Pa Abdul Shundame, with Nyom Pa Abdul Time Bundau, and we eat there. We do a lot of things, of course, I mean, as young people, and he was always there to serve as an inspiration whenever we visited GRTS as well. So Ibu is definitely a legend, and that is why before he passed away, we were working with him in a lot of things. Pa Abdul Wage, of course, being his son, just a few days ago sent me the trailer of the new academy that Mr. Jallow is talking about, and the same day Ibu Wage posted that a couple of days later he passed away. So he has set up something for the Gambia that is much needed. It's unfortunate that no institution in Gambia is providing an accreditation, a certification that is accredited when it comes to this creative art. So Ibu is a trend that node. Sometimes not, in our country, not even some. People are only celebrated for the most part after they pass away. I've seen a lot of tributes, a lot of messages that are coming from different sectors, different stakeholders. People send them to us. We featured some on our pages, and it is very touching to know that he has done all of these things, most of which were not in the public domain. So I wonder where we are when it comes to preserving the work and recognizing and showcasing the work of people that are doing so much for the country. It is sad that these things only come out after the people are gone, and something needs to be done towards that. We pay tribute and respect to him. Our team were at the event that Mr. Jallow is talking about. They are editing those videos, and we will showcase it there. I am made to be aware that we were the only, or one of the only few media houses, if there was any other one that was who covered the event. Gambian Talents TV was there, and we will showcase what actually transpired at that tribute that the NCAC facilitated with the organization. Now, I just have a question for Mr. Jallow when it comes to this, which is about his legacy, the work that he does. The copyright is what you're about to talk about. It's still not in implementation. Royalties to be collected and everything, as he talked about on his behalf, even if the family was to register with the NCAC, to register his work with the NCAC, how will you implement that, and how soon can his family start making some change from his work? This is my question. And Kalilu, you can go ahead and continue. Again, I'm here at my storage, putting together a whole lot of things. So
for Gambia, we like that. Always for Gambia, we like that when it comes to Gambia. Yeah. The director was talking about that earlier on, that he requested the family to give NCAC power of attorney so that they can be able to authorize them to register all the materials that were created by the late Ibuwage, and subsequent to that, they will be able to protect it for a period of 70 years, as stipulated.
I have heard that part, Kalilu. My question was about how soon
can that happen? Yeah, because the implement enforcement is yet. Yeah, genau. Thank you.
Yes, that's my question. I heard him loud and clear. I'm following the conversation very well.
Genau. Mr. Director.
Yes, Kalilu.
Are we with you? Power saying something important. How soon will you be able to protect his legacy?
Yeah, actually, Kalilu, that depends how fast we are able to put on GIPO, which is going to be the next phenomenal discussion we will be doing. Because as part of what we will be able to recommend for the family is to bring forward and put the work into the repertoire. Right now, what is important is what are his works, because he has series of works, because he has done a lot of commissioned works. Commissioned works are not protected by the individual or by the private individual. He has done a lot of work that are paid works also. Like he has done works for GRTS. Those works are not his, because he did those works when he was an employee of GRTS. Of course, he might have done some work also for DRRC and some other departments like the International Roots Foundation. Most of those works are commission works, or they are private. They are owned by the owners of, or the employers. The employers.
Yeah.
But he has done his own private documentaries. His private.
Your microphone is muted, sir.
Sorry about that. Where did I stop? Where did you last hear?
So you were talking about his private documentaries.
Yes. So he had done some private documentaries and private works that he is the author and the producer. Those are protectable. Those are the things now what we will have to check. The family will have to put together and compile them and bring them. And each of those works will cost them only, like the form is $100, and each of the work to put it into the repertoire is just $600, and it will be protected for 70 years. So it depends on how many works he has that are actually produced and authored by himself. And of course, maybe even if he has like related right owners in those works, the family has to negotiate with those people and ask them how much do they need out of that work, so as to know the percentage that will go to the related right owners. Because in a work of art, you do not create everything and own everything. There must be some soundtrack that he has used, and there must be some cameraman who has made the images. Even if he had made the image, then that goes back to him. Or there must be some actors or actresses that he must have used. So these are things that the family will have to come for us to guide them, so that once they are able to compile those materials, and then they are able to come forward to the copyright office, then they can be submitted into the repertoire, and then we can start looking into that.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think that answers the question of PAOs. So now, Mr. Director, we want to go to the favorite question, which is the talk of the town, GIPO, the Gambia Intellectual Property Office. It was mentioned in the draft Intellectual Property Act. So my question is it that we are fading away from the Copyright Act 2004, which was enacted in Parliament? Is it also that we are fading away from the Collecting Society of the Gambia, which was stated in that same act, and then the Copyright Bureau? So I want us to know those arithmetics so that the people can understand.
Yeah, Kalilu, thank you very much. I always like talking about that. When it comes to copyright, it's my favorite discussion. You know that.
Okay.
Hal, your first question was the many abbreviations in our national setups, like the NCAC, the National Center for Arts and Culture, Musicam, Gambia Music Union, FPAC, Film Producers Association of the Gambia, VAG, VAAG, which is VAG, that is Visual Arts Association of the Gambia, and GAMUT, Gambia Union of Theatre. You name them. Actually, I think these are some of the things. They are just abbreviations, and they are actually to help for people like me who it might take a lot of difficulty to be able to pronounce the institution or the name very properly. It might be a challenge in some cases. So having it as NCAC, I have one of my favorite drivers like to call my office NCNC, but at least he is able to understand that he is referring to the National Center for Arts and Culture, because I know if he wants to refer to National Center for Arts and Culture all the time, he will be making a lot of mistakes. Just watch. NCAC, he is having problem to pronounce NCAC. He's saying NCNC. So which is correct. So you have a lot of those problems around. That is why we use those abbreviations favorably, so as to be able to give it even to the layman. They can say Musicam. That would be easier than saying Gambia Music Union, Gambia Theatre Union, Gambia Film Producers Association. So these are the basic ones that we are looking at in here. So the second point is GIPO. That is the Gambia Intellectual Property Office. It's not in an act yet. Let me correct that. It's not an act yet because it did not go to Parliament yet.
It's a draft.
It's a bill. Yes, a bill. It is a bill because before you have an act, you have to have a bill. A bill is intentions, content of intentions that you want to implement. How do you want to do it, and what do you wish? What are your wish list? Then when it goes to Parliament, they look at this and that. This is too much. This is out. This is that, and then they ratify it. Then it becomes an act when it is being accentuated by the president. Exactly. Then it goes to be gazetted. Then that is an act. So at the moment, we do not have a new act on that area. What we have is the Intellectual Property Bill. That is the Gambia Intellectual Property Bill. And in fact, this, I will tell you honestly, Kalilu, this work started almost like 5 years ago. The IP office, which is already housed in at the Ministry of Justice, they have a department called the IP unit.
Exactly.
That IP unit has been working on the different stakeholders, which is knowing that IP relates to 3 segments, which is trademark. You have the other sector is industrial property and copyright. And this institution of intellectual property have been actually put into different sectors. Trademark was under the Gambia, was under the Minister of Justice, but it was worked very much in tangent with the Ministry of Trade, because they were the experts around with that, but it was housed under the Ministry of Justice at the IP office.
Exactly.
Then you have industrial properties, which comes to patents and things like that.
Trademarks.
They are housed under the Ministry of Justice, because they are dealing with industrial properties and industrial matters, because that's where you're talking about patents, and so many other things that comes to new innovations and models and things of that nature. So basically, the Ministry of Justice was handling that, and they were overseeing these 2 sectors. So the copyright, since it is part of the creative industry, it was placed under the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, and of course, which eventually gave its custody to the National Center for Arts and Culture. So we became the implementation team for copyright when the act was passed in 2004. So that is where we took it up. And 5 years ago, we have been working with Minister of Justice, the IP unit, to be able to develop what we call the NIPS, that is the National Intellectual Property Strategy, which was sponsored by WIPO, that's World Intellectual Property Organization. So WIPO and ARIPO had sent in different missions in here. In fact, in one of the missions, Alma Metal had also served as a consultant to that, and so many different experts who have been working on that, until we were able to have the IP, that is the IP training program at the university. So that started, and that was working on. And once this was done, what happened is the idea that in most countries around the world, or most developed countries, they have it as one-stop shop. One-stop shop is you have both trademark, intellectual property, and copyright all in one office.
Exactly.
That's where that's what you have in most countries. We took the model in Senegal, which I think we are trying to revert from, because it's not working very well for Senegal until they divorced very recently. And it has really kind of failed in most countries around, like Nigeria and some of the countries that had done it. But the most successful countries like Malawi, Kenya, and Burkina Faso, and some of those countries that are very much doing with copyright, they actually have one office called something like an intellectual property office. So we learned these examples. And in fact, I would tell you honestly, Carl, I almost took a cutlass when this was first mentioned in the meeting in at the Kairaba Hall. I think you must have attended that meeting with Ibrahim Sise.
Yeah.
When this was announced there by the recent Solicitor General, Mr. Marena. Yeah. When Mr. Marena mentioned this, I almost wanted to put the ad, upside down, because I am thinking that that office cannot be led by lawyers.
It was a review of the cultural policy at Kairaba office. I could remember, yeah.
When they mentioned that, so I was almost getting into tattered, because I was like, why would that happen? You wanted to, how can somebody who is not an artist lead such an enterprise? Because I was citing from, because we were trained by Senegal, by Madame Sibi. And of course, when Yusudur was the Minister of Culture shortly. So we were trained by Madame Sibi. Senegal had to send experts over to the Gambia with the help of the ECOWAS Copyright Observatory, Commission. They also sent in experts from Ghana and Nigeria so as to mentor us and train us. So that was the focus that I had seen. But as we grew up, I started traveling, going to Zimbabwe and some of these countries. I started realizing that this is not what is happening in Malawi. This is not happening in South Africa. And most of the countries that have really successful copyright institutions in the world, they have it as one unit office. Both intellectual property office, both trademark, the industrial property and copyright, they house them all in the same office, and they all function hand in hand, and it works for them. So when we were drafting this, we thought the idea that why don't we bring some of this, because some of the experts that we had were from Egypt, from Ethiopia and Malawi and some of those countries. So they idealized and supported the idea that we were going to, and convince us with the statistics that they had shown and with the M's that we had seen. Obviously, as adamant as I was, and fighting to say no, copyright cannot go under an IP unit, because they don't have an idea of the creative industry, and they cannot cater the interests of artists. I think I was wrong. When I came to realize the nomenclature around the industry properly, I came to realize that I think we should work together. And that was very much supported later in the NIPS, which is the National Intellectual Property Strategy. And now we have started implementing that for the last year with the ministry, and we have already formed what you call the National Intellectual Property Council. The National Intellectual Property Council is working towards implementing the strategy, the National Intellectual Property Strategy, NIPS. So the council composes of various stakeholders, like from, of course, NCAC, copyright, of course, and the trademarks, Minister of Trade, and of course, GAIPA and some other stakeholders that have stakes in trademark and in industrial property, even the Chamber of Commerce, and of course, the Minister of Justice. So this is what composed the intellectual property, the National Intellectual Property Council. So that council actually is the one that is working on right now to be able to put this now, to make sure that we are able to take this bill now to Parliament, so that it becomes an act, at least by December or in the next parliamentary sessions, National Assembly sessions, so that we can have it and it's fully enacted and gazetted at least by the end of the year, so that by 2021 now we will have to implement copyright to move on. But mark you, it's not that copyright is not working in Gambia. I would like to correct my brother Pa Usman about that. Copyright has two regimes, and that is the Copyright Office and the Collecting Society of the Gambia, which is the CSG. The Collecting Society of the Gambia is the CMO, which is the Collective Management Organization. The Collective Management Organization is one branch of copyright. It has its independent and semi-autonomous body. It is a group of artistic associations and unions that form that office to become an apex body, like a federation, which is going to fight on their behalf. The second office is copyright. Copyright has only 3 mandates.
So copyright is hosted, can we make that clear? The Copyright Office is hosted by the National Center for Arts and Culture.
Yes, the Copyright Office is hosted under the government. Let me say under the government, which is under the National Center for Arts and Culture.
Okay.
Because there are three things that relates to that sector. And that is one, government will have to, what you call, fight against piracy. Because there is no individual who can go out there and see your work and you can arrest nobody, even if it is your work. It's against the law. You cannot go to Serekunda market and you find your music, like Sambu the Unstoppable, his music can be pirated in Serekunda market and he cannot do anything about that. And the same thing to Mohawk. His music can be pirated.
Greetings from Mohawk.
And he cannot do anything about that. But what he has to do, what the law says is, he has to report it to the Copyright Office. Because the copyright in the law, in the act, it's only the Copyright Office that has the mandate to do enforcement and fight against piracy. And in fact, NCSC will not fight against piracy, but we have a unit that which is also under government, and that is under the Police IP unit. We formed it together with the Ministry of Justice. We created something called the Police IP unit. The Police IP unit, they are responsible for fighting or enforcing the law. So all that we do, when we get reports, we go out there and inform the enforcement team, and we go out there. If you remember, or if you may have heard,
yeah, I think Mr. Jao, the one living in around Tanje, he's my neighbor in Batokunko. You know, I can remember he's in the criminal investigation department in the police in the police office in Banjul. I think he's part of the team.
Yeah, most likely it's possible because they have a big team, and I know they have a focal person whom we directly contact. All that we do is with the switch of a telephone call, we call him, and then they are able to be at the venue where we need them. Like, for example, last year, Jaliba Kwete reported his album being released when he released his 3 albums. Within 3 months, Jaliba could not sell more than 500 tapes, and the album was already available everywhere in the country. And when he reported that matter, I took the initiative with the enforcement team. I called them, and they came down to Serekunda market, and we arrested almost 32 stores or individuals that were pirating his work. 32 of them. We parked them at the Bundung police station. It was on a Saturday, and they had to spend the night there Sunday. On Monday morning, they were all transported down to the Banjul headquarters. At the Banjul headquarters, once we were there, these 32 individuals were about to be prosecuted. And I'm sure, as you know, the Gambia, this Maslaha syndrome, some families were affected. They had to go to Jaliba, or they had to engage him somehow. And we asked Jaliba to come and make a report at the police station so that the prosecution goes on. We take all of them to court because we wanted to set an example. You know what happened, Kalilu? Jaliba said he is not coming to the police station, and he is not going to serve as a witness, and he is not going to prosecute those people, and because they are his fans.
I can imagine.
People are his fans. If that happened to him, he would not, and he was the one who reported the case.
I can imagine.
So with that, the office had nothing to do again, because
copyright owners. Somebody is commenting, copyright owners are Uncle Badu Basket. Copyright owners can very much do something against piracy. In the past, I have raided the Serekunda market for illegal tapes. Okay. Yeah.
Actually, you can, the fact is, raiding the market, going there, but that does not justify anything because it's not within the ambits of the law. You cannot them to any court. If you are doing that, it's just like, you can be sued for it, for willful destruction of properties.
Exactly.
It's within that, because there is nowhere in the act or in the law which says that you can prosecute them directly. That's the saddest part of the law. You can go and, of course, collect those things, but if those people know they are right, that could be a big challenge. It's your work. You can bastardize the work. You can do anything, of course, but that does not mean what you are doing is legal. We are talking about the ambits of the law. Within the ambits of the law, in the Gambia, as of now, there is no way that you can do private collection. So that is not what has to happen. If Mr. Badu Baskat was able to do that, well, I am informing him that was a wrong move. What he could have done was to have he's taking the law into his own hand. What he could have done was to report the matter to the police or to NCAC. Then the IP office would have gone to that place or to those suspected place and arrest them, and with prosecution it would have been done. Then due process would have been done.
To get back to the topic, and now we understand that the Copyright Bureau, which is hosted by the National Center for Arts and Culture, is responsible for enforcement of piracy, infringement, and all the other things that are mandated by them. So when is the IP Act going to be implemented? You said it's a wish now. Yeah, you guys it's a bill, and the bill is not yet in Parliament. We understand that. Uncle is saying that when is the IP Act to be implemented? It's a bill. The bill has not yet been passed.
Carl. Carl. In fact, there is an IP Act already that is being implemented by the Ministry of Justice, but it only involves trademark and
industrial
property. That is going very well. It's happening, and people are working on that. In fact, I know there is a court case that is going on for those who are. There was a house that was raided at Kotu because they are using this television, these channels. You know, these channels.
TV,
you can have one channel in your house, and you are distributing it almost to 16 compounds around your neighborhood.
Around your neighborhood, yeah.
That is illegal. They have arrested. So the IP Act is in place. The Copyright Act is in place. What is happening now is merging the two
you want
offices.
To merge them, yeah. You want to align them
to create what we call GIPO, Gambia Intellectual Property Act.
Okay.
Just to align it in one office.
Yeah.
To align it in one office. But all of these things are working. The only thing that is not working is the Collecting Society of the Gambia to collect royalties and distribute to artists. That is the only thing as far as IP is concerned in the Gambia. The only thing that is not working is the Collecting Society of the Gambia, and that is to be headed by the artists themselves, the creators.
Yeah, Mr. Director, I just want to make that point clear, because I was thinking when you merge or align the IP office and the Copyright Bureau together, that will move us away from the Collecting Society, because the intention is to privatize the Collecting Society to make it independent CMOs, collective management organizations? Or is it that still the Collecting Society of the Gambia, which was indicated in the Copyright Act, is still operational, or we can still bank on that?
Yeah, Carl, within these two, at the moment, we are brainstorming, we are under consultation. There was a draft that was made, and we have distributed that draft to the representatives of the stakeholders. Every sector, we have given them, we have targeted their stakeholders and given it to them. And it's their job to distribute it to all the stakeholders. For example, for music, and for all the stakeholders in music, we have given it to Pamodu and Killer Ace and G to distribute it. So if any musician do not see that act or do not contribute into that act is the responsibility of Pamodu, who has failed them, and Killer Ace or G. These are the three people we have distributed it to, and we have informed them that distribute it to all the stakeholders in the music industry, so that they all have a say to talk about this, the act, the bill, and before we take it to parliament. The same thing applies to film. We have distributed it to Zaidi through, and then Omar Lee and Alaji Manka. We have distributed it, given it to them, and said distribute this bill so that every film sector or every film stakeholder is able to have a say or look into the act, look into the bill rather, and make their comments or their contribution and send it through you, so that when we have the final consultation or focus group meeting, you will be able to bring it forward and say, well, this is the idea, or this is the this is the contribution from our stakeholders. So anybody doing theater is Mam Demba and John Kamanda. These are the people we have distributed it, and Ndai Fatu Jame. These are the people we have distributed it. So every sector, we have targeted at least 3 people who are the steering committees in those sectors to be able to distribute it to anyone, every single sector, so that
Now,
every sector, you look
Mr.
your interest
Director,
in music,
Mr.
or
Director,
you look your sector in film. You
Yeah,
look
Mr.
what
Director.
does the Copyright Act says about beauty period.
Yeah,
So
Mr.
this is
Director,
one thing
thank
that
you.
we have done. So what we are expecting now is.
Thank you, Mr. Director. I think that point is clear. You have widely distributed the new bill to all the creative sector representatives, and you are urging them to give it to their members so that they can be able to review it and then send in their comments or suggestions. That is very clear. We just want to be clear on this part. We already have a Copyright Act 2004. And then this Copyright Act establishes the Copyright Bureau, which is hosted by the National Center for Arts and Culture. And then we also have the establishment of the Collecting Society of the Gambia. And it was important that you highlighted that the IP office is functional and operational. The Copyright Bureau is functional and operational, but it's only the Collecting Society of the Gambia which is not operational. But last week you said the Collecting Society of the Gambia is moribund. It's moribund. So that means
Yes, I like that word.
Yeah, you like that word. That's why I'm clearly stating it like that. It's moribund. So does it mean if the new bill is passed? Does it mean if the new bill is passed, the Collecting Society of the Gambia is going to fade away, or is it still going to be maintained because it's mentioned by the Copyright Act? That is what I want to know.
Yeah, Carl, that is subject to revision still, because I would not be able to preempt what the act is going to be like or what the bill will end up happening. But the idea is, there is 2 ideas that we are working on at the moment. Some said the Copyright Act should not be repealed. What should happen is it should be maintained, and the IP Act can come to complement. We make another act called GIPO, which will complement and merge these 2 offices when none of them is being repealed. And the idea, the second idea is, are we going to scrap the Copyright Act 2004 or repeal it and repeal the IP Act 2008, all of them, and come up with a new act that is going to make the collection of royalties independent or privately, so that private individuals or business people, then it becomes now an entrepreneurship business. Like you, Kalilu, you can come and invest into a label or into a CMO, collective management, business, and then you will hire, or you will get the works of G, Jizzle, you name those artists. Maybe 5 or 10 or 15 of those artists who want to work with you or who have confidence in you. Then you manage their royalties. That is private management. And I can also invest. Once you are doing there, I can invest. So can invest. Another person can invest. So we will have multiple private collection mechanisms. If yours don't work, if I see that, Kalilu, you have signed Jizzle and Jizzle is not seeing any money from you, Jizzle will leave you and come to me. Because Jizzle is seeing that ST is making money with me. Because I am investing into ST's work and I am going after ST's arrangements with the JRTS. Anytime that they use ST's work, they pay me privately. Any hotel that is using ST's work, they pay me. So obviously, Jizzle will leave you and come down to me. So that is also an idea we are still pondering on. So this is the area, because since the collective management, to have one central house cannot work for almost 5 years, we are thinking, why don't we go private and look at that? But it's still an opinion, because still it's not in any act, it's not finalized, and we are getting ideas. And people are bringing in different ideas, and we are looking forward to finalize one of these ideas, of course, to bring it in the final validation that we will make. Then it will become an act. Then we will know the way forward.
Exactly. That is very important, Mr. Director, because one thing on one side on one side we have the Collecting Society of the Gambia, which is not functional, and on the second side is we want to initiate private CMOs, which is going to be in the new bill, which we are intending to have in some months to come. So that area is clear. Where is the bill? The bill is the document that was sent to you. Mahab, if you are listening, the bill, that was the document, the IP Act that was sent to you, that is the bill. So that is where you have to put your comments and suggestions and everything that you think. If you think it will be good to go with private CMOs, fine. If we think we have to maintain the CSG and still go with private CMOs, that is also fine. That should come from the creators. The creators have to initiate that, and NCSE will consider that with their stakeholders who are working on the draft. You talk about the National Intellectual Property Council, that is looking, or commission, or committee, or council. The NITS. The abbreviation, the National Intellectual Property Council, is it a council or a committee?
No, it's a council. That is the National Intellectual Property Council, NIP. NIPC. NIP.
Okay, now another abbreviation. So that is where you have all these experts thinking about the regime, the copyright regime or intellectual property regime that will work best for the Gambia. So, Mr. Director, you said JIPO is your favorite. Why JIPO is your favorite? Can you tell us that?
To tell you the truth, things are just not working with the nomenclature of copyright setup in the country at this time. When I was at the outside, I was sitting on the same bench with you. You knew very well that our discussion or our argument was NCAC was too slow in making this thing happen. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things that mitigated me to take employment at the NCAC to make things work. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, you would accord with me. I went with a lot of vigor, energy, power. You know it very well. You remember very well. And in 2012, when I came into office, that was one of the major things that I was just looking, despite it was not directly under my office. But I have a brilliant guy who was really ready to give me, hey, Sheikh, let's make it happen. He was always ready there. That's why I had no surprise when he becomes now the Director General, and that is Hassoum Cissé. So Hassoum was almost ready for anything to make sure that this happens. And my work with him, I enjoyed it very well in that department to make sure that things start. And you knew we had taken credits at that time. The number of works that we had done, the sensitizations, this forming of associations, all the way down to the collecting society, people were even thinking that I was assistant, which I was, of course, the next assistant to Hassoum Cissé. So the challenge was, we were all eager and enthusiastic in getting this thing work. Because as you know, as I said, I am a stakeholder. I have my works. I have my films. That hardly, in fact, some of my films, Alaji Manka will tell you that nobody had seen them in the Gambia apart from him and his editing studio and most of the film festivals that I presented to. These are mostly where I sell my films or where I take my films in.
They are highly protected.
Hardly, you would see, and even my own film. And they are protected, of course, outside, because I have been in the States. Most of my work, I know the channels to go out there and make those things happen. So basically, I could always, find a way of getting myself out there. In fact, I mentored Alaji Manka about film festivals outside. So that was something that I had been making my living on. Well, before coming down to NCA, I was only living basically on that one. And, with Senegal. So that was something that
Mr. Director, somebody have a very important question. What if the bill is not passed and you intend to run a private CMO?
No, that cannot happen, because as far as up till today, I am not saying if the bill is passed tomorrow, but up till today, as we are talking, we have the Copyright Act 2004 in its format, and that does not recommend it. It would be a crime.
Okay, Mr. Director. Yeah, Mr. Director, thank you so much for that clarity. But one question. All the creators in the Gambia, what are you going to urge them to do as soon as possible in, to register with their works? Where do they need to go to register their works? Because a lot of people are mistaking these two facts. Whether to register, is there a registration taking place in the CSG, or the registration should be done at the National Center for Arts and Culture, the Copyright Bureau? So I thought, what is your advice? Where should they go to register their work so that it can be in the national repertoire?
Carl, it's rather unfortunate that a lot of people do confuse these things. Registrations of work to be protected against piracy is done by the national institution, because nobody has the power other than the enforcement office, which is the police, who can enforce and fight against piracy or anything.
And to qualify it, government, because governments make laws, so they enforce the laws.
Excellent.
And if there is any lapses, so we blame the government. So are you happy when we blame the government in some cases?
No, Carl, well, I haven't. Did you see the new blame I had in Freedom just on the 26th, just 2 days ago? Did you read Freedom?
No, I
People have already started blaming me for different things. You need to go down to Freedom and see that. But that does not mean that we would not take criticism. Because when we were outside there too, we were critics. You remember that? I was one of the greatest critics of NCAC. And likewise, I am still a critic in so many different things, in so many different issues. So criticism actually makes us better and just makes us to learn from what people think things should have been, and actually it guides us. Sometimes I steal ideas from people's criticism, I correct it, I correct myself. So that has made me a better person. Exactly. If I wasn't criticized, I would have been just like Yahya Jammeh. I would have just been very pompous and then just go on my way loosely. So that was something that is very applauding. We won it. I need criticism, and we will take it and we will tolerate it. People should all that we will not just take. It's maybe insults and and libels, accusations that are not found to be true.
And fake news.
And fake news. I would not be able to take fake news. So those are things that I have a problem. But as I said, the advice I would give to creative industry stakeholders is they need to come out and register their work at the NCAC. There are various registrations that people have to understand. You have to register yourself or your organization or your entity in one fold. That's one. You need to do that. That is of a different mandate. It has nothing to do with anything. That is to be able to be recognized that you are a recognized artist
in the Gambia.
In the Gambia. And you are licensed.
State also the act that mentioned that, because you said in the NCAC Act it was indicated that you have to,
of course,
a record
you need to register under the NCAC for any creative activity you are doing. That is one thing. That's not under copyright. That's directly under my office, under the Department for Creative and Performing Arts.
Okay.
I oversee that sector. Which is the intangible cultural heritage of the Gambia.
Okay. And the second part, quickly.
The other one is you register your work. Your work, once it's being, we don't register ideas, because it's all work of art is automatically copyrighted. Whether you register or you don't register, it's automatically copyrighted. It's automatic, because copyright is automatic.
Ideas and imaginations
are not copyrighted.
Exactly.
Copyrighted, no. Ideas are not copyrighted. So what happens is you license, you copyright, you come to the NCAC at the copyright office and copyright your work, so that you can, not to benefit, but we can fight for piracy for you and protect the work. And it is also found in the repertoire, in the national repertoire. It is found in there. These are the things that you do your work, like your television programming. The program you are having on this TV right now, you can copyright it if you are the author. If you are the author, you can copyright it. Nobody can make any use of this work without your consent. And even Pa Usman, who is maybe the owner of the TV or the content, and you are not employed, it's only based on maybe partnership or an understanding which you guys have documentation on. He cannot use the work in your absence if it is work, if it is copyrighted. So these are things that you need to get that.
That is clear. That is very clear,
So,
Mr. Director.
the third work is the CSG. You don't register any work at the CSG. The CSG, you license them. Licensing. It's called licensing. You license the CSG to collect royalties on your behalf.
Exactly.
Because they are a collective management organization. They are not an enforcement body. They are not a registration body. You license them. You license them. You give them the work and say, I want to license you my work. I want you to collect on my behalf. Now they will go to GRTS. They will go to the hotel. They will go to the bar. They will go to the restaurant and say, if anybody use this work of Kalilu Banja, this music of Kalilu Banja, you need to pay.
Exactly.
And they negotiate on your behalf. And when those people are to pay, they make that check to the CSG, and then the CSG pays you your money.
Okay.
This is how it works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director. That is clear. We have 3 registration processes, and then we can say 2. One is because of the NCAC Act that mandated you to register people who are within the creative sector of the Gambia. And the second one is copyrighting your works at the Copyright Bureau. You can do that also at the National Center for Arts and Culture for protection. And then the third is to be a member of the Collecting Society of the Gambia. You have to render your works to them, and then they provide you provide a license for them to be able to protect your work. So we understand those facts now. Somebody was saying that maybe the registration can take 5 years period at NCAC. That can be one-off payment. But again, before you answer that, Pa Usman.
Yes, yes,
I think you have something for the director. What do you have for the director?
It is interesting. Mr. Jallow is breaking down this to the layman for consumption, and this is exactly what we expect. And we wish and hope that it continues like this. Not only even with Gambian talents, but across other media houses. It is very important that people understand what their role is in all of this. And the more sensitization is done, the more it is broken down to the people, to the beneficiaries, to the end users, to the people in the creative sector, the better it will be. So, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can he repeat those statements, please?
What I said was, I am applauding your efforts and what you have done so far in breaking it down, especially the 3 types of registration. Now the work is left for the people to consume, the end users you talked about, what their role should be, the beneficiaries, the creators, the artists. Our uncle Badu Job was saying it earlier that musicians or artists and creators are different, and it is good that we distinguish this. When it comes to the Gambian setting, you have people that are playing multiple roles, and I would want you to come in there, Mr. Jallow, if possible, which is, for example, Gambian musicians, they write their own songs. They compose their music for the most part. I mean, or at least involved in the composition and arrangement. They write the lyrics and do most of what needs to be done when it comes to the song. Probably just go to the studio and just do a voice over there, or they work with the producer to either produce the music, or the producer produces a music and sell it to them, because most of them are doing studio artists. They don't actually have a band, a live band. So how can you break that down in a scenario where a producer produces a song and the artist writes his own lyrics, arranges the music, or composes it? Who benefits from what in this situation? How would that work? Mr. Jallow, Khalil, did you get me?
Carl, I think if I...
Mr. Jallow, did you hear my question well? Mr. Jallow?
Yeah, I picked some bits of the question, if I am right. Can you hear me very well?
I was talking about the Gambian setting where the musician composes, or writes their own lyrics.
Yeah, I got the point.
And they go to the studio, and the studio, makes a beat for them. How do you, how does that work, that setting? Who benefits from what? Or who owns what?
Yes, okay. Thank you, Pamudu. I think when it comes to copyright, there are different stakeholders in the creative work. When it comes to the issue of, for example, music, we want to concentrate on music here. You have different stakeholders. That is why we call it copyright and related rights. Copyright and related rights. There are some who are related right owners. They are not the author. They are not the compositionist, and they are not the producer. But they have contributed in the work. For example, musicians. The instrument player is a related right owner. The musician is a related right owner. That is the instrumentalist, the drummer, the one who plays the piano. All of those people are related right owners because they added in the composition of creating the music. But the owner of the music is the author, the one who authored the work to produce it. So, by virtue of the one who said, I have an idea, I want to bring in the this song, Gambia Nehna, something like that. The idea is from me.
You are now singing to us now.
If I say, if I want to bring that, Gambia Nehna, Kufinyo Unga Dunda, and then I'm rapping. You, Pausman, you take the instrument and started boom 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 boom. And Kalilu started on the music. Talang talang tan tan talang talang tan tan talang talang tan tan. Then we make the composition. I am the composer. I am the author of the music. I will take the lion's share of the copyright, but I cannot copyright that work without you who added the pum 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 pum, or Khalil who added the challenge. That cannot be. They are all stakeholders in the benefits. Now it's up to me now. How do I negotiate with you people? I can say I have paid you to do this music for me, but I will give you at least 2% of the copyright. And
that is only when you sell your exclusive rights as a creator.
No, Carl, I can hire you to come and do that challenge.
Exactly. That is right. Yeah, that is right.
I will hire you. You charge me $100.
Yeah.
And I pay you $100, but that does not mean that's the end. In my negotiation with you now, I will say I'll pay you $100, but I will give you only 2% of my copyright benefit.
Exactly.
But you can say, no, I don't want to be paid. I want to take my copyright benefit.
Exactly.
Then, Carl, you and me, we all invested into that music. You don't take anything home. I don't take anything home. Then now we look at the percentage. There, I cannot give you 2%. Maybe I will give you 20 or 25%.
Exactly.
Because you contributed and I did not pay your service. And for Pabodu, or for Pausman, I have paid him to do that boom, 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 that in the music. And I paid him. Once he took the money, that does not mean eventually, in my negotiation with him, he's not entitled to any part of the copyright because he is a related right owner.
Exactly.
But in some cases, some will buy all your exclusive right. Carl,
exactly.
No, I want you to do this, but I want you to, I'll buy you out.
Exactly.
But you charge me instead of $100 in our share. If you are buying me out, that means you are taking me out totally out of this debt. It's only the credits, which is the moral right. The moral right will only remain to you, which is in the album or anywhere that music is played. I will always refer that challenge was made by Kalilu. That is your moral right. But I have bought you out your financial, which is your financial right. I have bought that out from you. And that is mine. Because instead of now paying you $100, now you charge me $1,000. I paid for you to do that job for me. So I buy you out. That is commission job. It's a commission job. That's why I was referring to some of the works of Ibu Wage.
Very clear, Mr. Director.
Like the jobs that Ibu Wage did at DRTS.
Okay, very clear, Mr. Director. Pa Usman. Hello, Pa.
Is that clear to you, Pa?
Pa Usman, I think Pa is a little bit lost. Just to break that down, we have the mechanical rights. We also have the neighboring rights, and we have the moral. So these are the three regimes, and then the mechanical rights, they look into performance rights also as well, with regards to the performance fees that are coming into play, and then they can even extend to synchronization fees that they will look into with regards to some of the songs that are played on TV, on adverts, that are made on adverts and all that. Or movies, or even movies.
For a bit. Sorry, yeah. I heard people and I'm following. I muted myself for a bit.
Exactly. So the director tried very well to explain that. So we have the mechanical rights, which include both the composition and also the producers of the song and the artists that sing on the song. You also have the related rights that he was talking about. And you have the moral rights also. Like if somebody contributed, you have to indicate if they give all the exclusive rights to you and you pay them. But what is happening in the Gambia, Mr. Director? A lot of the Tama players and the Kora players, they were going to the studios, they were making these songs, and at the end of the day, they don't benefit from it. Some of them, they died, so that is why we have to speed up. That is why we have to speed up and put all these things in place. That is
and Kalilu, I have a related question. I have a question for him there. So now those related right owners, do they equally have to register like the copyright owners, the related right owners? For example, we're talking about the Tama player here, or the guitar player here, or the bongo man here. Do they have to register with any of these institutions and be a member of the collecting society for them to benefit, or it comes to them by default with the copyright owner registering and being involved with this? Is it the copyright owner who collect their royalties on their behalf, or do they collect theirs independently?
Okay, before the director answer that question, Sekoma, I think you were allowed by the copyright to establish a team of professionals that are going to look into these copyrighted works so that they can be able to make those demarcations as per what Pa is asking.
Yeah. Okay. Let me start with Pa's question, which is actually Pa. Yes, I think we have to understand here about two things. To register as an artist, that you register under the Department for Creative and Performing Arts, under the Intangible Cultural Heritages, where you are given and recognized as an artist, whatever artist you are doing. To register under copyright, no artist register under copyright. You don't register yourself under copyright because you are already registered. That is what is important. It's your work.
Yeah,
that's that is why you can have one person registering 20 work.
Exactly.
20 times. You can only register yourself once. And to answer Mohawk's question, yes, Mohawk, we will look into the 5 years registration, maybe when we repeal the act again. But for now, we are not even registering 1 year. It's actually 2 years.
Mr. Director, what he is saying is that I just give you an example. You have a song, like you said, we have a soundtrack called Gambia Nehna. Yeah. Why in this Gambia Nehna, you have a guitar player who is Keba Suso. You have a balafon player who is Lamin Kamara. You have a bongo player who is Pate Jallow. You have a flute player who is Demba Sise. And then now you have the artist who is singing now, the singer. You have the singer who is Jisul. So now, does it mean all the people who carry the related rights, they all have to register that work, that same work. That was the question of Pa Usman. So I am thinking that there should be a kind of a council, I will call it a council, that will look into all the copyrighted works that are coming into the Copyright Bureau, and they have to authenticate by giving those questions. Who is that here? Who is that here, to the person who is registering, so that they can authenticate that. That was the question. Pa? Hello? Hello, Mr. Director? So I lost all my two guests.
I'm here, Kalilu. I'm here, Kalilu.
Yeah, but I think we lost the director, because I was trying to say, like, if you have a song that is created by Jisul, and then you have different instrument players who are taking part in that composition, or they play in that part of a music, do they all have to go and claim that they were part of this song? So that was the question. But it was said, there should be a kind of a committee that have to verge into that, to be able to know exactly who and who take part into the related rights, and also who owns the mechanical rights.
And I think Uncle Badu Job the other day made mention of something like this. In case you have people that want to register one piece of work to multiple or with multiple platforms, to make sure that they are getting paid twice. Just to avoid duplication of efforts. But Mr. Jallow is here, he's the expert, and he can break that further down for us.
So we were saying, with regards to past question, is about when you have a song, and then in this song, there are people who have related rights. Do they also need to go and say, oh yeah, we were part of this composition of that song? How do you distinguish that? Do you have a committee that looks into the copyrighted works before they are actually copyrighted at the Bureau?
Yeah, Carl, I had everything you were asking. And as I said, this is what I was building up to. I said, to register as an artist is an individual. Every individual needs to register. As far as you are doing the artwork, you need to register. Whether you are a piano player, a bassist, a singer, whatever you are doing, that you register separately. That is for you to be recognized that you are in the profession. That's one. The work is different when it is to be registered. The work is only registered by the author, the producer, who actually, when he is registering, he comes with the contract. We don't have a commission like what you are saying there. We only have a form that describes who is the instrument player. If it is yourself, you say Bajarajad. Who is the singer? You say it's Kalilu Banja. Who is the arranger? You say it's Pate Jahate. Who is the whatever? Then this is what you agree with your people. This is what you agree with your people, and you take it, you bring it to the Copyright Office for us to look. Or behind your work.
Question I was going to ask Mr. Jallow.
Behind your label.
So it
or
is
the cassette. We find.
I was going to ask there, who makes this decision? The artists themselves agree who owns what, right? They talk among themselves and they agree, and that is what the author takes to the registration for everything to be registered. Is that how it works?
Yes. It's the artists themselves. They own the work.
Okay. So what they agree on, that is for them. If a Tama player wants to ask for 10%, a guitar player wants to ask for 15%.
But you know, the simple way is, you see, behind every album, what do you see there?
Yes, the name.
No, just tell me, behind every album that is released or cassette, on the albums behind it, what do you find there?
The names of everybody and the role they played, the instrument they played, or whether it is recorded at, and all of that information. That's what you normally find.
Genau.
That is one thing we request for.
Okay.
That is one of the information we request.
I can get
and the second information now is, what is the agreement? Yeah, the second information we ask is, what is the agreement you guys have? Who owns what? Then you say, I share Omar Jallow, I am the lead, I am the producer, I own 35% of the royalties. Kalilu did only the clavier, the guitar. Kalilu, I give him 25% or 10% or 1%. And I give Pa Usman maybe 17% because he brought money and he also made some dancing, also some singing. Then I give that to you. That is the contract. The contract together with that published material, then this is what we use to be able to know who owns what and who owns what. When they are distributing now, they distribute it based on the license you indicated, because in the license you indicate that I will have to indicate I share Omar Jallow. I am the copyright owner of this work called Kanyalemba. This work called Kanyalemba.
But now, Mr. Director. But now, Mr. Director, the problem here is that an artist will not be able to authenticate the kind of percentage that is going to Mr. X if he doesn't understand the nature.
Carl, that is where they are making a big mistake, because I will not give you any work of art, Carl, without knowing exactly what you will pay me. So at the moment, our artists are very ignorant. No, just listen. Our artists are very ignorant, because you know what they are looking at mostly? How much do I get right now? They are not thinking. In fact, when copyright starts going on here, Carl, some would be, they are already being fooled. They nahante bepare. They nahante ñu collect nañ bagage yi ba nga xamné ni muus ñi dañ ko laaxa bepare ñu ngi xaar affaire yi mu róor rek ñu dóor affaire yi mu ne fop ñu commencé di collect seen baax ñeneen ñi nga xam ne nag ne nax nañ leen ba fi mu nekk because ignorant lañ def ñeneen sax saay noonu la nañ ay kayit saay noonu lañ leen ay kayit so dañ loolu dafa dem ba fi mu nekk dafa passé loolu. It's not NCAC that needs to regulate that. It's between artists. Artists ñomi neen ñoo mëna def lolu.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Omar. Mr. Omar.
Naam.
I understand what you are saying, but I still think that the NCAC has a big role here in educating the artist fraternity. Lingena Wahni is very important. Artists need to be aware of these things. Where they will take time to actually find out and even listen to shows like this, where these things are broken down for them. Senegalese artists, typical example, are very aware of their rights. My team were in Medina Sabah just last week, and they went to Kerngoy and Kernyom Salimbai to interview them. They have asked, they gave them hell, asked for money. They were asking where this is going to be published. They said they're not just going to give up their lead. Fun like them, negotiation, all kinds of things. I was on the phone with them when they were at Kengoyan. It was a tough negotiation. Eventually, they gave us the content we wanted. Why didn't you nyama Rexa? Just because we didn't go prepared to actually give them money. Gambian Media House, we didn't have money to actually, we didn't go there with money to give them. But for one, like Senegalese artists in aware, this is Kerengoyan, Senegalese artists in Medina Sabah, uneducated women who actually are already aware of their rights. They know this is a business for them, and they would not just give up anything to the media just like that. Now you compare that with Gambian artists as far as how aware they are, whether you take especially the instrumentalist dog, you take a traditional instrument, how aware are they? So in them a studio and they just put in there, they get paid, or sometimes they sold a dream. Boy, song this will begin didn't fit touch lele. As a result, they just go, senior 15-20 minutes then to go studio, definitely not different, and that is it. So song begin where and then opportunity performance. I mean, where they can make a little bit of change here and there, or they don't have the opportunity. That's not something they really care about. So a lot of education is needed here to be done to both the artists ñi nga xam ne ñooy support lini ak ñi nga xam ne ñooy main artists themselves. A lot of education needs to be done here, and I would challenge the NCAC to take up that responsibility.
NCAC have to do that. This time, Sheikh Omar, the director, we are not going to befriend you here. You have to do that. The NCAC have to sensitize the Gambian citizenry about the copyright regime and legislation. Sheikh Omar, ba osmunglawa question there. Sheikh Omar, the education, the sensitization part, I think that is lacking. You're talking about the artists are ignorant. You should help them to understand because they are registering with you. Anyway, Sekamar?
I'm not sure if he's there, Kalilu.
Yeah, I'm not very sure. I think I'm gonna end this program here now.
I was coming in and out. It's good that Mr. Jallow touched on the copyright and in relation to the music. So how far have we gone when it comes to acting and movie and film? Because that industry is also booming. Or is that going to be a separate show, Kalilu?
It's all the same. We will bring them here also. That is the reason why I had Mam Demba, and then I am trying to get Alaji Manka also, and other people also, the Fashion Designers Association, you know. I will get all of them. And that is the reason why I always want to stick on the creative sector so that I don't leave anyone behind. So most of the time, because we are working with the music union before, so we like to say the music industry, but it's the creative sector that we are using here. So we will bring...
The way it works might be different. So it's good that actually the focus is on the music industry now, and eventually you may end up having, to go into, those in the film industry, because the way it works might be different. If it is the same, maybe Mr. Jallow can help you with that. It looks like he's back.
It's all the same. The copyright regime with regards to film, I was just giving an example about the synchronization fee. Like you making an advert and you play Buddy Bunker's music under the advert, and then you put the pictures there. So there is some fee that you have to pay for royalties, But again, it has to be like a kind of an agreement with the artist. So that starts from the registration, which is very, very important. If the work is not registered, even when the copyright regime is on, they will not come to do something like that. And Uncle Badu is saying that whether the IP, legislature in the Gambia is going to start in doomsday. Second one.
Well, tell him it will not start in doomsday. Maybe it will start in his lifetime as well. But it's rather unfortunate that it did not. It's actually working. It's the collection. As I said, you have to distinguish these two, and Badu have to distinguish these two things. Copyright is already working in the Gambia, and it's very much active and it's fine. It's the collecting society, collection of royalties. This is what is not working for the Gambia, and that is not the responsibility of government.
No, but no, Mr. Director, that side, I always want to agree with you on that side, that it is not the responsibility of the government. But in as much as it was, indicated in the act to establish a copyright collecting society, the financial muscle that should move that institution is not there, and you are aware of that, Mr. Director.
Independent bodies, a semi-autonomous body, a lobby group, you don't sit to wait for a seed money. Carl, Mandi Mori, when you guys wanted to establish a music institution, Did you wait for NCAC?
No, no.
Is it not our responsibility then to facilitate that you get money to get that music school on?
Yes.
Carl, but why you didn't wait? Tell me why you didn't wait.
No,
it's not about excuses, Carl. The point is not about excuses.
No, it's not an excuse.
Excuses.
Yeah, it is not an excuse.
The point is, no, let me tell you, because, Carl, this is what we've been waiting for the last 5 years to 7 years. We are still dragging on. Why are we going to wait for government? They should have waited for government. They did not. You just do your things. Government will complement it when it has to. How can you complement something that is not there? Government did all the best that we are doing, and that is to even create you. We created you. Because as I said, even the money to get those stakeholders to a Congress, you knew that money, I had to struggle and get it outside there with sponsorships. And Hakim did wonderful. He gave me $35,000. I'm saying it again and again. He contributed single-handedly, 35,000. No single association contributed. Why the associations did not contribute to create the CSG?
So now I just want to, that is what I'm telling you. Now I just want to say, all the viewers who are watching this program and some of the great minds of the Gambia who are watching this program at the moment, and they are creators and at the same time they are influential people, you know, they should be able to support the operations of the collecting society of the Gambia if they can be able to contribute. I think some of the big guns in the music sector, if you are listening to this program, you know, what is stopping the legislature at the moment, or the enforcement and all those stuffs that we are talking about, is the operationalization of the collecting society of the Gambia.
Why is Badu not supporting?
Yeah, so Uncle,
1,000 euro.
I will start from you. Maybe I will give you a private call.
Can you contribute at least 1,000 euro, please? Because
at least
Uncle Badu, you see,
1,000 euro. Maho, you know, at least 1,000. Yeah.
Let me tell you something interesting that happened.
Oh, can we also have a bank agreement?
Let me tell you. When Yusundur was the president, when Yusundur became the Minister of Culture, because Yusundur knew very well that he has a high stake in the Gambia, because everybody plays Yusundur's music in the Gambia, and he's not collecting a dime in the Gambia.
So he wanted...
Yusundur took his personal money. Yusundur took his personal money, not as money for the ministry or for SODAV. Yusundur took his personal money and sent in the expert called Madam Sibi to come to the Gambia and train us so that copyright start working in the Gambia in 2012.
Yes, in 2012. And then the sister also...
It is a foreign money. It's Yusundur's money.
Yeah, the sister also Gonembu, if you could remember, I sent an email to you because
I remember when they wanted to visit the Gambia.
When they wanted to visit the Gambia, so they contacted Hakim. Hakim contacted a few of us in the group, and I write to NCAC to inform you that they wanted to visit Gambia on a familiarization tour to be able to see how they can support the establishment of the copyright regime, like the collecting
society. Because they are losing. Because they are losing. Yeah. They are losing so much, and then they are actually. I have been to the copyright SODAV and so many of those offices. I have been going in and out there, office end. But you know the issue is, they have high stake, and they are finances. Some of them are telling me that what we need is, if you need money, we are going to give you money. But how can I continue begging foreigners to give me money to establish for the institution of my own people? What is happening to the Gambian artists? They are always sitting and folding hands. We are waiting for government. We are waiting for government. We are waiting for seed money. There is no seed money yet. We are folding our hands. For 7 good years, we are still folding our hands. and waiting for government. It's not common for government. Why aren't we working together? Why is not Badu is not contributing $1,000? Why is not Mohawk contributing 100 euro? Why is he not supporting that group? I'm not saying you send it to NCAC. We don't need it. But support yourself so that CSG that is already moribund because they don't have money. That is why they don't have money, because nobody is contributing to give them anything. And they are looking for even fares to come down for meetings. It's a problem. It's not coming from NCAC. The money government did not. If government would have done it, we have written more than 10 letters since Yaya Jammeh's time. Yaya Jammeh, we have written already 6 letters. With this government, we have already written 3 or 4 letters to inform them about that same thing. It's not happening. And still, Gambian artists are still waiting. We are waiting for the seed money. We are waiting for the seed money. When is that going to happen?
No, we understand. Sheikh Omar, thank you for that clarity. We understand that part, but government could have been so generous to give us a little bit of money. Mr. Honorable Director, you may deduct $1,000 from the royalties the Gambia owes me for pirating my music for 50 years. You see, Uncle have a point. Uncle have a big point. You see, Uncle have a big point. Because Uncle
yes,
is losing.
I agree with Sheikh Omar here when it comes to Uncle Badu. Uncle Badu is somebody that I came in contact with years ago. Like close to 10 years, I would say. I used to call him direct line. He's watching and talk to him at length, and I learned a lot from him. He's a treasure, but Uncle just wants to do exactly what he's doing right now, and in my opinion, that doesn't cut it. He is very good at laying it down when it comes to these things. I invited him on my platforms on numerous occasions. Uncle will not come. Uncle will not do a lot of things when it comes to actions. But then whenever you have shows, he can recognize and come up with wonderful ideas. But when it comes to his direct involvement and participation, he doesn't do a lot of it. Lima wahamna ko dega nako, how much I respect him, how much I continue to ask of him to actually come and even enlighten or talk to the people. He has his anger though, somewhat you can understand that Gambia did not give him what his befitting honorifics and appellations, I will say. Mom generation. They have
award winner.
There's anger in Uncle, I would say, and this is my personal opinion. I stand to be corrected. Him and a lot of legends, a lot of people who have done so much for the country. And I will encourage Sheikh Omar and the NCAC to tap into some of these people. Not only did they have the local experience in the Gambia and what they have done for the country back in the days, but they equally have international exposure, experience, and a lot of things they can bring to the country. These are arguments that I've made for the longest, Kalilu, when it comes to this, whether it is with the NCA, whether it is in the sports sector. They have that type of anger. And I'm saying this because I personally and Gambian talents have the opportunity to interact with these folks, whether it is biri biri in the sports sector, whether you are talking about Chiwalum Tiatarbi, Uncle Serin Seka, and a lot of the people. I remember 2-3 years ago, we mobilized the Gobgar Kuru, Anti Umisamba, and a lot of them, both those in Gambia and those that are outside. I forgot who passed away in the acting fraternity, Kenasinyo Morirun, and we brought them together on one platform. They would not even believe this. You can hear them, you can hear their frustration, you can hear them expressing how much they feel they have been neglected, they've not been giving their dues. It works the same way in every sector of Gambia. The people who have done so much for the country from way back are harboring something in them because they've not been giving their due. And the least that they expect probably is even respect, or for them to be celebrated, or for the younger generation to come to them to tap and from their wealth of knowledge, give them the respect, involve them in what is happening, even if they are not paid. This is the language, and I'm saying my experience, hearing from them and listening to them, Kalilu, and I think that is very important. So, Uncle Badu, I will applaud them and encourage them to be more involved and do more than what they are doing. And I also encourage the Sheikh Omars, the NCACs, and those in authority to actually find a way of involving these people and making sure that they are recognized, they are celebrated, and they are given, they equally benefit financially That is what I wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Exactly. Second one.
Yes, please. Very clear.
Because I was even talking with uncle. Like you see the IFCD fund bill, when there is an idea of digitalizing the traditional musics of the Gambia. Uncle is a great composer. You can get him a flight. He fly to the Gambia, and all these traditional songs.
Not only Uncle Kalilu, not only Uncle, but even Mohawk is watching. About 7 years ago, in the one Nyom Tamit same generation, in the Mohawk from the fugitives, in the Nyom Lirangs or Ranking Fire from born Africans. I brought Matthew from Penchabi, Nyom same generation, Bobu, and you can see the click. Mohawk is watching. So I always
right now. So because sometimes we need that because of you have these professionals, and then capacity building part of the training programs to give it to the artists, the young generation. We cannot lose.
So when I brought the same type of reaction that I have actresses here. It's the same reaction we have when you bring people in the sports industry. You get them the government, you start dealing involved now you have you fake generation, but you like you probably should try they cannot date back to the God of TV. So it's very important that NTSs organize platforms where these generations will interact and will in the respect, they not feel that they are respected and they are asked because you see then you feel Omar contribute in making sure that ñu xamne ñi kat ay legend ñi ay mag lañ da ngeen leen wara jappalé da ngeen leen wara respect.
Pausman Kalilu, let me clarify point bobu nonu. I think Pausman li nga wax fofu nonu, it's a good point and it's point noted. Why dama ci bëgga yokal leen moy na dafa am effort ci NCAC di def bo xamne it doesn't seem fruitful to pay back because Kyle yo sa bopa badu basket si bopa badu basket si bopa wan ne I invited him on a forum which is for the creative business entrepreneurship training program and 12 weeks intensive training program to get the music entrepreneurship set up, prepared, and then they can do a great work in the country. I'm happy that it's very successful because it paid off to create some of the managers of most of these artists in Italy. They are excelling because strategies have been exposed there and international invite Badu Chilulu. Why unfortunately it did not happen because Amna his own issues, which of course we can understand, but that's not the point that we are elaborating here. He is not the point here. What we are talking about here is we have engaged every sector here. Any prominent veteran bo xamne la ne veteran nga ci biir Gambia bi fi tay ji ci secteur bi nga xamne mom nga nekk dina la wax ne la ne Cheikh Omar Mustama bind dem na OS ma munta dem ci issue ci programme bobu non for that sector. Why ñi day ñew dañ day nekk a great partner to us like Masi ñom Okuy ñom Lay Ngom, you name them, ñom Usu Njay Senior dañ day gëna. Why Badu is very difficult to get him on board. It's a problem. Why? Yet still we honor his work. We respect the works of Super Eagles and even Gelawar, you name them. We respect their work because we know they had said something that the Gambia is very proud of. And we are very proud of them. And inshallah, we are working on honoring them. We will honor them one day. We will. But manliba wa moyne dama ne Youssou Ndour daf ñu jox dafa jox madame Sibi Halis mu ne ko ne demal nga dimbale ji gaay Gambie ñu set up seen copyright waaye come on man loolu moo am noonu lana jot Gambian musicians yi pour ñu géem a seet ni ñoo contribuer tuuti waay ñu géem a seet ni ñoo move things bu dem on balaa ñoo géem a query fii ni di look at the blame game government du ko def man su ma def ak yow dara benn at defuloo ko ma laajaat la ko ñaari at defuloo ko waaye bi laay ñetteel bi su ma la ko laajee kon suba teyteelu la waaye xamal ne government would not do it or it's not happening with government for now.
Now dina la wax
jël leen seen matukaay.
The 72,000 that you were talking about that the music union have it in their account, that was purposely intended for the secretariat of the music union. And then
did you even know who sent it? Did you even know who deposited it?
No, wait, let me tell you that part of that money was organized by Sule Sow and Musambub in UK. They organized a little program in UK. The money that they got from that performance is what they put into that account that amounted to 72,000 Gambian dollars. So it was intended to pay me as an administrative secretary, but because I was working with Kate, so Ibrahima told me to forgo that, and then we can use that on some of the errands and the registration of the music union to film. Settle annually, NCAC has been supporting us to pay our registration with the International Music Federation. Dega artists itamida dañ wara ñoo xamne they are big, and then investors. I will say investors. Those who have the creative sector in their heart, they should come out and support these establishments. To be honest, if we want to wait for government,
man was at one time I did ask you that a different part of your regulation ne artist bu am a gig so as at least 1% of his revenue or 2% of his revenue mu fay ko into the music union or mu fay ko into the society bi ni kon legi copyright dem na waye ne CSG bi dem na men dafa mel ni ne xam nga li
no, second one, better performance at the Independence Stadium. If all the artists they have one same heart, they want to work together, they want to see that these things work, they can just organize like Jallow said. The first thing Jallow said, he said there is no money in the music union account. So he is suggesting that there be a gala dinner whereby big top artists can can organize gala dinners, but hang on, la mo neka problem with independent event organizers are using the artists and making gala dinners. But now the artists themselves cannot go to those same individual event organizers and tell them we need our institution up and running, so we want you to support us to organize our gala dinners, and the monies that they will get from this, they can put it in their institutions. What is stopping them from doing that? My boss, man,
those kind of fundraising strategies, they are available and they can happen. What would be wrong to go down to Kairaba, negotiate at Nyom? I'm one of the companies to be able to come and sponsor that. What is the problem with all those things? Hamgali problem, Bikal. The problem is about having the capacity, the right people. If I say honestly, you were to have been in around assist guy, by now, maybe I would say you would have helped at least something. While music union lag right now, or the sector william lag, is capacity.
Why
some of these people cannot even write a proper letter. Let me tell you the truth now. Even proper letters, because they go and get people, they are not inclined. These are some of the challenges that they are. Koku kumunuta binda even a proper letter. Koku dinala binda proposal or dina binda a business plan. It's a problem because the right people that are supposed to come on board are running away. They are not ready to take responsibility because ni upper gaming, borom lamen yu reyi, ño bari. Ñom ño bari ba am dañoo waxlo ba nga xamne ki nga xamne sa ne ku baax la, ki nga xamne ku genuine la, mënuta ñoo forward because rusna te bañ na ñoo di kekkanto ñu ko fulis lo o ñu ko kayit lo. Ñu dañ tok ci seen boppa. So ñi mënu dara nak ñooy ñoo di xëccoo position si ñu bàyyi leen lépp dara demul dara du baax. This is the problem. Let's point our fingers right down to where the problem is. You get Ottawa Congress for all the artistic associations again.
Yeah, but some of the artists are even writing back to me because of the information I gave to you. So that is when they know. I had wanted to get Killer Ace here. They said they are not yet on their media tour. So when they are ready, they will get back to me. And they intended to. I don't want to say that. That is private. But again, yeah, they said they will embark on a media tour, and the congresses are going to be held in November, and still we are not hearing from them. So, and the information have to go to the next person in the village. So when is that going to be done? And when are you going to get everybody in that program? Because people will not be aware of the program.
Carl, as far as that is concerned, we have only opened our embers to make sure that all the congresses of the artistic associations will be held between the 15th to the 30th. And we are financing it. And we are facilitating it. No, we are financing it, but we are not facilitating it. Because I don't want to interfere into those sectors. One assignment, provide why Nico guided is not my business. Technically, any technical support, I have asked them that only technical support. Why would you look for support? I don't have any problem with legal. Now make sure that the Congress is here. That's all my challenge. Man lo rek moy suma goal. Nu Congress is di amé. Nakala ñoo démé ak ku gaay di tana, it's not of my business. Bobu duma ci duga because they are private institutions. Lig guy lolu causing ben crime. Fiñ cause a problem or a crime moy né ñu baña dem Congress and overstay.
Overstay
bobu nonu di overstay ay ben at ay ñaari at ñeneen so leen di wax ne dem leen Congress ñu naan ne ma bañ ma lanka dew ma Congress because of ne hay bi mo leen fa togloo pour lan loolu duñ ko accept. So all the artistic associations, inshallah, they are all going to Congress between the 15th to the 30th. Guy, at the moment they are responding very well. I'm very happy with the response so far. Music Union, you give on the top notch. Film producers, no among a little technical issues, but they are compromising with it. Gambia Union of Theatre, GG. Motasa Faruma Axi, late, because I was trying to go to their meeting for Mano and this breakdown But all these associations they had come, we had a fruitful discussion, and then you set up a steering committee because kept amuchi executive bohamne overstayed. So it's an executive yepa moribond. Yepa them. So steering committees in Tana put in place right now. Nyonyo am dole, nyonyo am kadu, pour ñu mëna execute all these executives, all these congresses for all the artistic associations. Sorry, these 6 artistic associations. Music Union, Film Producers Association of the Gambia, FPAC, Gambia Union of Theatre, Gamut, Visual Arts Association of the Gambia, Pentasi Sculptosi, the Gambia Association of Professional Photographers, the
music producers, managers, how manaka.
Well, Gam. There's Gambia Association of Music Producers and Promoters.
Yeah,
so, but Congress. Them on Congress and Congress there and what they need to do is an AGM, annual general meeting. Among budget already.
Okay, Mr. Director, I just want to my GFALS Association, but again,
exactly.
There is this confusion because the Copyright Act stated the Music Producers Association. Why do you have the managers and the promoters all on top of that?
Because we cannot afford to have any the organization be to do all that. Why? Lolo lead GAMP def moine. GAMP has 3 branches. The farm, because so you say the one of them to they form associations. The farm go to a union. Because all of these people are music producers. Producers if he the Gambia Producers Association, which was headed by Fogna Sambu, or if I'm not sure.
Yeah, Sambu.
Do Sambu or Kini, Bennett Boy?
J Life.
J Life.
Wow.
The other group is headed by Jifal. Is it the promoters? And then music managers. No, promoters is headed by, is it Mustik how Mustik Naka? Mustik B.
Mustik Sticky B. Yeah, Mustik Sticky
Mustik B. And then you also have promoters like Yasali head or something. I'm not sure. But Hamnane, all this vice presidency, they are heading an association that they need to form.
So it means it's a consortium. That group, that association is a consortium of different branches. Yeah.
But at the moment, they are only representatives. Everybody is just registered underneath the main one because none of the other associations is in existence, to my knowledge. How many guy you could have chipet? How many you could have chipet? Why? As far as I am concerned, and the office is concerned, I have no knowledge of anything that is in existence apart from GAMP so far.
Okay, all right, that is very clear. That is very clear. Thank you so much, Mr. Director, for coming back again to our program, even though you were late, but we have treated quite a lot of issues. And we want to take this opportunity to thank you again for taking your valuable time to join us tonight on the GAMP Showbiz in Focus. As we continue to discuss about issues pertaining to the creative sector of the Gambia, we will hope and pray that we have you back again soon to clarify some of the issues with regards to the developments taking place in the creative sector. Thank you so much, and we want to thank your office for according you this privilege to join us tonight and to talk to us about the many issues of concern of the stakeholders. Thank you once again, Mr. Director, and it's a pleasure. You can tell us your last words, probably. Yeah. No fighting today, and I am happy that no fighting today. So I use my German guns to be able to control you. So no fighting today.
Hold him out. So as I said, we are progressing. Lima just nyan rek moine. Let the industry stakeholders come to an understanding regular. We are not there for ourselves. We are not there to fight anybody. We are not there to jeopardize anything. All that we are doing, intending, especially my Director General Hasum Sise, we are just there to make things happen, because we are stakeholders. Hasum is a prominent writer. He's a prolific writer. He's a writer.
And a professional.
So he is a stakeholder. He is a stakeholder. And hey, Carl, you know that first of all, I am a theater practitioner.
We know that.
So theater is part of me. Why hardly nini discuss. And film, hamgana is my profession. Mom la dune, mom la deme. So I am also a stakeholder. So lepalun defu tibin industry bini rekamal ne, defa available or resources ba munta def nekut ne. Then ko nasahal. It's in us. Then ko buga def mu happen. Every day we'll fight, but you don't know the conundrum that is in front of us. They face. So all that I am asking, the challenge the biggest challenge now. We have a government now that is very attentive, especially a minister. Is very attentive and listening.
So there is political will.
There is the political will is there now. All that we need to do now is organize ourselves. Bobo's biggest problem has Carl. Because we have a lot of people that have big mouths and they just talk. They know what they do implement, do def dara. Lima ñaan rek moy ne na nit ñi respond to their sector associations yi sen congress yi. Ñi nga xamne they know the stamina bi amna ñu fa. Xaalis bi ñoo jox associations yi ni. There is nothing to share. Dama leen ne ñu use xaalis yooyu noonu to implement their plan of activities. So that the guy ñu mëna am sen plan of activities. Waaye duñ jël xaalis boobu ñu lekk ko bam jeex de. Dañ ko jël jambat ko. Nañ ko jël ñu jambat ko. Ko jambaté pour mu mëna jur yeneen. Képp kuñ ci jox benn 500,000 yaakaar nañ ne di nga wara jur benn 250,000 ci kawam. At least bés bi nga fa jógee ko xaalis boobu noonu dina wara dem to 1 million or else 1.5 million. This is what we expect. Bu fekkee ne yow mii mun nga ko or anybody standing right there or ku toog fale di ma déglu yow or nga ne mun ngaa def loolu feeñal si sa executive si sa association seen congress bi nga présent sa boppa bul laaxu bul taw away from bul jël back seat tegal front seat because you know that you have the capacity te ñii jël capacity ay ñii jël front seat bi te yow mu already yaa leen sut so pass leen feeñsil Genesil, what we need is Niko Mun. Ku mun sa boppa ku olu sa boppa nag ne mun nga bàyyi leen wax bi ñu ñëw for front ñu def job bi moo gën a important dan wax bu bëri bi ñi gën a mun wax bëri ñooñu munuñ dara ñi mun ñu ngi noppi ñooñu noppi nag lay waxal waxuma sax ñi bëri wax ñi noppi ñooñu lay waxal ne dama leen di ñaan ngir yàlla génn si leen stop the silence and do not be distracted by Nis and Wai. We will have to live with it. We need to come together and make this thing happen. Lila Abu Wanawa, wassalam.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Jallow. I don't have anything more to say again until we come your way. To all our beautiful viewers of the tonight program. Is Paus with us? Before I forget, I always forget Paus. Paus man.
Oh, Paus man.
Paus man. Okay, Paus man is not around. So, Mr. Jallow, thank you so much, and our beautiful listeners, thank you so much for taking your time and being with us in the past 3 hours. It was
thank
a
you
great
very much. Okay then.
And then
I wish all the listeners from America, Europe, anywhere you are, I say a big salute to you and thank you. Drusba.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jallow. Thank you.
All right then. Thank you.
Supersonics money transfer wolle kudima na falia kabosain kata October karo bandula. Ha, kabosain kata October karo bandula. Ipeganyo roke la mani botolal. Wato wati nitata kodota Gambia banko kanjang. Membota na UK, Europe, USA, Canada, wala for Switzerland ni atambinin Supersonics money transfer. Ha, barin diata. Kabosain kata October karo bandula. Wato wati nitata kodota Gambia banko kanjang. Membota na UK, Europe, USA, Canada, wala for Switzerland. Alon ko ni mani boto be sela suokonol. Nko mani boto keme donne bijede ote bamban sain foida kese ni mo kemol kono meni be gagné rokela nyum kudi mala kabosain kata October karo bandula. Anin Supersonics money transfer dorong ibe ñun soto la wol ino sewondi ñun ku koyola men tariata alla no warta dum bata da clinteje ko di tala karola katu yalo ne ko ñun len ko di ta dulatu men warta Gambia banko be kanjang woto ni ko do taje wato wati hani fadino ita jola je tan na Google Play Store wala na Apple Store bi ye Supersonics money transfer app download ye ni sewondi ani ñin ko di ta dula ani Supersonics ñun kudi ma be soto la woto dron na
You want to know about the Gambia entertainment industry. You want to know the existing policies and programs of the arts and culture sector. You want to know about the governance and management of the arts associations. The program will throw a fresh light on the entertainment industry in focus. We will touch so many angles about the cultural sector, the opportunities and challenges, and interrogate them and most importantly, offer solutions.
Ngali yendeo kwa nyulle nata ka musicolu kidimandi nyulle nata ka artisolu kidimandi nyulle nata ka jado ganyandi nyulle nata o ka jololu fanam fintindi Facebook oto YouTube ko YouTube Gambia Talent Muna promotion lem Gambia Talent Muna promotion ngonde jaworode bari bunga wate buna nge jubele wate buna nge la moyle wate buna nge la kuomira Gambia Talent woy ngoye dulle nata oy kantol kidimandi kantol sewondi kantol nganyandi Gambia Talent buna Gam talent woy ay wali pa Ousmane Diouf inimba